Chapter 909. Oh, I see. Wang Chuanda muttered to himself. Seeing the mess in the private room, if it were him, no matter who it was, he would naturally chase them out if they caused trouble in the clubhouse. However, for Gao Nan's sake, there was no need to be calculative. Gao Nan, you're not young anymore. Don't always think of fooling around outside, he reprimanded. Gao Nan naturally pretended to be frightened by his elder's reprimand and nodded repeatedly. Wang Chuanda turned around and was about to leave under the escort of a group of people. Du Jiayan shot a glance at Mu Yaja, who had been sitting in his seat all this while, and for some reason, he suddenly stepped forward and blocked Wang Chuanda's path. Startled, Wang Chuanda glanced at him from the corner of his eye and asked coldly, "What's wrong?" "Mr. Wang, it's like this. Today is my girlfriend's class reunion. It should have been a happy gathering, but some random people sneaked in and made the scene so awkward. I think I'm doing this for your sake. A high-class place like Eternal Night Clubhouse shouldn't allow some commoners to sneak in. If they touch the expensive antiques here, won't it make things difficult for me? President Wang, please send someone to chase this person out." With that, he pointed at the man sitting in his seat and said, "It's this person. I don't know his identity, but he's the cause of today's situation." This time, he pushed the blame to Mu Yaja and removed all responsibility from himself. Firstly, he wanted to save some face in front of Wang Chuanda, lest the latter think that he was the one who caused the state of the room. Secondly, Du Jiayan found Mu Yaja to be an eyesore and wanted to vent his anger in front of everyone by kicking him out. Wang Chuanda glanced at the man sitting in his seat and saw that he had not said a word from start to finish. His back was cold and solemn, making him look unfathomable. He turned around, looked at him, and asked, "Who are you?" Mu Yaja did not reply. Wang Chuanda frowned. He had been in the business for so long, but he had never met anyone who was so rude to him. He actually ignored him. He was furious. Therefore, with a look, the bodyguard beside him immediately understood and walked towards Mu Yaja. Du Jiayan gloated at their misfortune from the side, waiting to see Mu Yaja and Yun Shishir being chased out of the house. He was secretly delighted. Huang Lili was also very excited. He hoped to use Wang Chuanda to vent his anger. However, just as the bodyguard walked to his side, Mu Yaja suddenly turned around slowly. A handsome face was exposed to Wang Chuanda's line of sight. Wang Chuanda met Mu Yaja's deep gaze and was stunned for a second. Then, he was shocked and immediately shouted, "Wait!" His sudden voice startled Du Jiayan. He hurriedly approached and asked respectfully, "CEO Wang, what's going on?" Wang Chuanda did not wait for him to finish his words as he pushed him aside and strode toward Mu Yaja. Mu Yaja did not get up and continued sitting in his seat calmly. Wang Chuanda walked up to him. When he saw that it was really him, a flattering smile appeared on his face. "Master Mu, you've graced us with your presence." Mu Yaja raised his hand to stop him. "I'm here to accompany my woman, there's no need to make a fuss." Chapter 910. Everyone was even more stunned by this inexplicable scene and looked at each other in dismay. Du Jiayan, Huang Lili, and even Gao Nan, who was standing at the side, were stunned. Why did Uncle show such a courteous expression when he saw this man? Who exactly is this man? Gao Nan looked around cautiously and did not see anyone else. Suspecting that Wang Chuanda had mistaken him for someone else, he hurriedly walked forward and asked, "Uncle, this lad is, don't be rude." Wang Chuanda immediately stopped him. Gao Nan was a sensible person and knew how to read people's expressions. Since this man could make his uncle bend down, his background must not be simple. Hence, he knew his place and did not speak again. "Mr. Wang, long time no see." Yes. I didn't expect to see Master Mu here." "What a coincidence." Wang Chuanda nodded repeatedly. His earlier condescending demeanor was gone as the smile on his face was as respectful as it could be. "I didn't know that you were Master Mu. Please forgive me for not coming out to meet you." "Don't be so formal," Mu Yaja said concisely. "I seem to have heard someone say that they want to chase me out." Who dares? Wang Chuanda straightened his back and looked around. He coldly shouted with a sharp gaze, since Master Mu is here, you are my distinguished guest. Who is the blind one who wants to embarrass Master Mu? Who dares to shamelessly say that they want to chase Master Mu out? That's the same as embarrassing me. Du Jiayan was pierced by Wang Chuanda's sharp gaze and did not dare to raise his head again. He hurriedly lowered his head and rubbed his fists with a fawning smile, clearly feeling guilty. Huang Lili looked at Wang Chuanda and then at Du Jiayan, who did not dare to speak. She looked indignant and wanted to say something, but she was pulled aside by him and softly reprimanded. Don't cause trouble. Oh. She bit her lip and lowered her head as well. Yun Shishir returned from the washroom. Just as she entered the room, she felt an unusually solemn atmosphere. 3 to 5 men in black suits stood at the door with solemn expressions. She was startled by it. However, the moment they entered, they saw a group of waiters cleaning up the mess while a group of people sat in the living room. Huang Lili and Du Jiayan sat on the sofa, looking restless. Xiao Shui and Gao Nan, on the other hand, sat at the side. Yun Shishir looked around, but did not see Mu Yaja's figure. Seeing her return, everyone looked at her with complicated gazes. However, in their eyes, Yun Shishir saw an inexplicable reverence. What's going on? As soon as Xiao Shui saw her, she immediately greeted her. Shishir, why were you gone for so long? Where did you go? I'm in the bathroom. I don't feel well. Yun Shishir paused for a moment before explaining, you know, I'm not a good drinker. It's getting to my head. Yes. What's going on? Why is the table overturned? What happened? Shishir, it's a good thing you weren't here just now. Huang Lili took advantage of your absence to badmouth you in front of your man. Huang Lili's face was filled with panic as she sat on pins and needles. Xiao Shui, don't talk nonsense. She was still arrogant toward Xiao Shui earlier, but once she learned about the relationship between Xiao Shui's boyfriend, Gao Nan, and that big shot, she became even more polite to Xiao Shui. Chapter 9:11. Xiao Shui stopped abruptly. She realized that her words would only hurt Shishir even more, so she quickly stopped herself. Shishir, anyway, she said a lot of bad things about you. So, you two fought? Yun Shishir narrowed her eyes. Thinking about it carefully, Xiao Shui had always been impulsive and righteous. If Huang Lili were to badmouth her in front of her, the latter would naturally not buy it and would definitely go head-to-head with the latter. Yun Shishir then looked at the mess on Du Jiayan and Gao Nan and was confused. Xiao Shui briefly recounted what had happened earlier. Yun Shishir was speechless. Xiao Shui, you're too impulsive. A mad dog bites people. Can you stoop to the level of a mad dog? Xiao Shui was stunned for a moment before she was amused by her words and laughed heartily. What's the matter? Yun Shishir looked at her, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Xiao Shui retorted, your man said the same thing to you earlier. With that, she imitated Mu Yaja's noble and cold expression and coldly said, after all, a man and a mad dog can't communicate. With that, she collapsed on top of her in laughter. Yun Shishir laughed as well. These words were indeed Mu Yaja's style. Just the thought of him spouting such vicious words with a cold and elegant face was enough to make her want to die of amusement. They were laughing. However, at this moment, everyone wanted to laugh but did not dare to. After knowing that Yun Shishir's boyfriend's background was not simple, they felt a great distance between them. Some female classmates who did not get along with her were jealous to the bone. However, they could not show it on their faces. Yun Shishir finished laughing and surveyed her surroundings with a puzzled look. Where is he? He and Mr. Wang are in the private conference room. Xiao Shui pointed to the closed door at the side. It was a small conference room. Mr. Wang. Who is that? What a coincidence. Mr. Wang is Gao Nan's uncle and the CEO of Wenk Real Estate. I didn't expect to meet you here today. After a pause, Xiao Shui suddenly asked, Shishir, who is your man? I think Gao Nan's uncle is very polite in front of him. I heard uncle call him young Master Mu. Gao Nan suddenly furrowed his brows and asked, Shusher, who exactly is your boyfriend? Yun Shusher raised her eyebrows but didn't want to talk to him. Huang Lili also asked anxiously, Shusher, there were many misunderstandings earlier. I hope you don't mind. After what had just happened, Huang Lili no longer dared to find trouble with Yun Shusher. The disdain on her face was gone and replaced with respect. I didn't know you, your boyfriend had such a high status. But didn't you say that your boyfriend is a company employee? Why, did CEO Wang change his expression when he saw him? Huang Lili was still in a daze. She still couldn't react. Earlier, Wang Chuanda looked at Du Jiayan with disdain. When he was in front of Mu Yaja, he acted like a grandson. However, this couldn't be said openly. Earlier, Wang Chuanda carefully invited Mu Yaja into the conference room because he had a business deal to discuss with him. Mu Yaja did not refuse. At least, this was Wang Chuanda's territory, so he gave him some face. Yun Shusher spread her hands. Yes, he is a company employee. But, Huang Lili, you don't have much knowledge and experience. Yun Shusher explained matter-of-factly, a CEO is also a company employee. Huang Lili's face instantly turned awkward. Everyone sighed inwardly. Chapter 9:12. Yun Shusher's boyfriend was the company's CEO, yet she was not as ostentatious as Huang Lili. Compared to her, the latter was too vain. What's your man's name? Xiao Shui asked nosily. Gao Nan frowned and said, I heard my uncle address him as Master Mu. In the capital, there's no one else who can make my uncle address him as Master Mu other than the Muse. The moment he said that, Du Jiayan's face turned even gloomier. Everyone started whispering among themselves. It can't be, right? Mu Yaja. I've heard of this name before. I heard that he's the capital's Mu family's CEO, Dishing Financial Groups. Gosh. It can't be. Dishing Financial Group's CEO? I heard Yun Shusher's boyfriend say that he's an employee of Dishing Financial Group. Although his surname is Mu, he might be Mu Yaja's cousin. Just like Xiao Shui's boyfriend and that CEO Wang just now, they might not be Mu Yaja himself. Earlier, Huang Lili's boyfriend said that he knows Mu Yaja and even played golf with him. Why does it seem that Yun Shusher's boyfriend doesn't know him, though? He. That can't be. Yun Shusher's boyfriend can't be Mu Yaja, right? Didn't Du Jiayan say that he knows the Mu Group's CEO? If it's really Mu Yaja, how can he not recognize him? The crowd continued to talk among themselves. Feeling his face burning, Du Jiayan cautiously asked, Yun Shusher, is your boyfriend Mu Yaja? If it's really Mu Yaja, Du Jiayan thought of how he had shamelessly boasted that he had met Mu Yaja a few times and even played golf with him. He even said that he wanted to greet Mu Yaja and take care of him. Heavens, how could he have seen it for real? This was just bullsh** ting. Then, if Yun Shusher's boyfriend was really Mu Yaja, then wouldn't he be embarrassed? At this thought, Du Jiayan's face turned white as he fidgeted uneasily. He wished he could dig a hole in the ground and bury his face in it. Yun Shusher ignored him. He sat down on the sofa. The waiter brought her some desserts. Huang Lili was also hungry. Due to the farce just now, she didn't have time to fill her stomach, so she shamelessly went to get some food. The waiter politely refused, I'm sorry. Madam, the dessert was prepared by CEO Wang for Miss Yun. Huang Lili's lips twitched as she swallowed a mouthful of dust. Xiao Shui held her stomach and laughed. Huang Lili, you still have the face to eat. Take your dirty hands away, it's disgusting. Huang Lili was furious, but she didn't dare to say anything. She could only retract her hand. In this class reunion, she had really lost all face. Gao Nan, on the other hand, had mixed feelings. Initially, the reason he came to the class reunion was mainly because of Yun Shusher, but tonight, she brought a man along. He thought that it was because of the previous incident, so he specially brought a bodyguard to protect her. However, when he found out about this bodyguard's mysterious identity, the capital's Mu family, this man turned out to be Mu Yaja. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. In the beginning, he was determined to get Yun Shishir. After all, he would use all means to get any woman he fancied. As for Yun Shishir, he was determined to get her and saw her as his. However, her man turned out to be Mu Yaja. Did they have a close relationship? Chapter 9:13. It turned out that Yun Shishir was his woman. In that case, Gao Nan's confidence was dwindling. There was no way he could win against Mu Yaja. After all, no matter how one looked at it, Mu Yaja's status was much higher than his. How could he compete with him? Was he delusional enough to think of snatching a woman from him? Still, Gao Nan felt indignant at the thought of it. He did not know much about Mu Yaja, but he knew that the Mu family was a powerful and influential family in the capital. In that case, Mu Yaja must be a big shot. Forget it. Men, after all, always had some bad habits. Did he not know what kind of character men had? What kind of person was Mu Yaja? How could he be faithful to Yun Shishir? He was probably just fooling around with her. That was what he thought. It was impossible for an influential man like Mu Yaja to fall in love with any woman. Women were just for fun. What about having only one heart for a lifetime and never leaving each other's side? Those were just words used to deceive little girls. Was there such a thing as being faithful in this world? Ha! Especially for someone like Mu Yaja, who could command the wind and rain, there was no way he would be faithful to just one woman. As a man, he guessed that Mu Yaja was only interested in Yun Shishir on a whim. He would get tired of her sooner or later. In that case, why not wait until he was tired of playing with her, and then get her in his hands? At that time, he could play with her however he wanted, and there would be no more worries. Now, he could only wait patiently. Once Mu Yaja was done, it would be his turn. Wouldn't it be more fun to play with a woman Mu Yaja had played with? In the conference room, Mu Yaja sat in the boss's chair lazily. Wang Chuanda told him about a development project he was working on. He planned to develop a new building, but before that, he had to win the bidding rights for this piece of land. This piece of land was a golden resource. In order to obtain the right to bid for this piece of land, it was necessary to establish a relationship with the main government. Wang Chuanda's mother was the sister of Gao Nan's grandfather, who was one of the founding fathers of the central government. However, although he was one of the founding fathers of the country and had a prominent position, he was still old and had long retired from the political scene. He no longer had any real power in his hands. In some aspects, his words naturally did not carry much weight. However, the Mu family was different. Mu Linfeng was Mu Yaja's fourth uncle. He had a military background and was very powerful. If he could work with the Mu family, he would definitely win the bid for this piece of land. Dishing Financial Group's financial strength was also very strong. If the Mu Group could clinch this cooperation, then the future prospects of this project would be extremely bright. Previously, Wang Chuanda had always wanted to meet Mu Yaja to discuss the development project. However, Mu Yaja had a lot of work to do, so he had to postpone the meeting again and again. Now that he had the chance to meet him here, of course, Wang Chuanda would not let it go so easily. The Mu family was rich and had a military background. If he could work with the Mu Group, he would be more than happy to see it happen. In terms of profits, Wang Chuanda was also very generous. He claimed that if the Mu Group was willing to open up a channel for Wan Ku, the profits would be at least 10 figures. 10 digits was already a considerable figure. It seemed that Wang Chuanda had gritted his teeth and put in a lot of effort to win the cooperation with the Mu Group. Wan Ku is going to bid for this piece of land just to build a villa. Chapter 9:14. Mr. Wang, you should know that the real estate companies under the Mu Group specialize in villa development. You said that you want to develop this land into an eco-villa park, but forgive me for being presumptuous, but in my opinion, Wanko Real Estate can't compete with the Mu Group when it comes to eco-villas, am I right? His words were arrogant, but they did not lose their decorum. Especially in front of Wang Chuanda, Mu Yaja actually addressed himself as a junior. It was obvious that he respected the man. It was not that Mu Yaja was arrogant. The Mu Group's real estate company was the #1 in the industry. It was unquestionably the leader and monopolized half of the real estate industry. In the real estate industry, Mu Group had always been working hard on the development of villas. Recently, a project under Mu Group's real estate, Yunshan Shi, was about to open for business. Yunshan Shi was the most high-end ecological villa in the capital city. Wanko was indeed unable to compete with the Mu Group when it came to villas. However, even if they had the confidence to build a villa park that was more high-end than Yunshan Shi, wouldn't they become the Mu Group's competitor? How could Mu Yaja allow others to take a share of the pie? The Mu Group would never cooperate with a competitor. The meaning behind Mu Yaja's words was simple. The Mu Group had always been in control of the villa industry and would not allow other real estate companies to infringe on it. Wang Chuanda was shocked by his boldness. The man in front of him was young, aggressive, and arrogant, but not rude. When he compared him to his nephew, he found that the two were simply incomparable. The student had surpassed the master. Every time he dealt with Mu Yaja, even though he was a sly old fox, he could not gain any advantage. The land that you have your eye on is Golden Osmanthus Garden, right? Yes, that's right. The Mu Group has taken the land next to Golden Osmanthus Garden and intends to turn it into a trade center. Since the garden is in a good location, the Mu Group will develop more eco-villas there in the future. If you're interested, why don't we work together? Okay. Then, it's settled. Wang Chuanda laughed. Mu Yaja suddenly asked, is that Gao Nan your nephew? When he said that, Wang Chuanda's face suddenly changed. He immediately became serious and asked carefully, young Master Mu, did I offend you in some way? Huff. He snorted coldly, but didn't speak. Only his pair of eyes faintly chilled. Wang Chuanda had been in the world of fame and fortune for a long time, and his mind was astute. He also knew how to observe people's expressions. Seeing Mu Yaja's expression, his face suddenly broke out in cold sweat. He guessed that his disappointing nephew must have offended this big shot, so he immediately lowered his face and apologized first. However, he had no idea how Gao Nan had offended Mu Yaja. Under his shameless questioning, Mu Yaja slowly opened his mouth. That nephew of yours doesn't know how to behave. Oh. What does young Master Mu mean by this? Why don't you tell me? If this brat does anything wrong, I will definitely teach him a lesson. Chapter 9:15. Mu Yaja's words were clear, but they were a little harsh. Wang Chuanda broke out in a cold sweat. His nephew was talented and had his own ideas, but he was still a young man. Wang Chuanda was busy with work, but he would occasionally hear rumors in the circle. His nephew did not have any other shortcomings, but he was especially promiscuous. This seemed to be a deep-rooted bad habit of many men, but it was especially carried forward by Gao Nan. Gao Nan must have been blind and offended Mu Yaja. Is it because my disappointing nephew offended young Master Mu's woman? He asked vaguely. Mu Yaja was noncommittal as he cast a sidelong glance at him coldly. Wang Chuanda's guess was confirmed in his eyes, and he immediately said solemnly, Master Mu, I'm really sorry. That lad has been spoiled by my cousin. I thought that he should be more careful now that he's old, but I didn't expect him to get worse. Don't worry, though, I'll definitely teach him a lesson later. After saying that, he did not forget to put in a few good words. Master Mu is young and promising. If my disappointing nephew can be half as good as you, I'll be gratified. When Mu Yaja and Wang Chuanda walked out of the conference room, the people outside had been waiting for a long time. However, they all had a tacit understanding and did not dare to complain. Huang Lili and Du Jiayan were the first to stand up, looking uneasy. Du Jiayan, in particular, looked at Mu Yaja's cold face and nervously rubbed his palms. He wanted to go forward to greet and exchange a few words to at least resolve the awkwardness from earlier. However, seeing Mu Yaja's cold face, he did not dare to go forward. Huang Lili nudged him and secretly reminded him, "What should we do? Did we offend someone? You still dare to say it? Isn't it all because of you?" At the mention of this, Du Jiayan got angry. "If not for you, would you have offended so many people?" Mu Yaja walked to Yun Shishir's side and hugged her waist, gently asking, "Did you wait long?" "No." Mu Yaja's thin lips hooked up, and he gently planted a kiss on her forehead. The pampering in his eyes was almost pinched out of water. At the side, Huang Lili's eyes were so red that they looked like they were about to bleed. Previously, when she had first met Mu Yaja, she had felt that it was unfair. This man's handsomeness was almost godlike. However, she thought about it later. What was the use of being handsome? What could a small employee do? However, things were different now. Looking at how respectful Wang Chuanda was to Mu Yaja, she felt that she could not be compared to Yun Shishir. What? What was so good about Yun Shishir? How could she always gain the favor of such outstanding men? It was like this in university, and it was still like this now. He was so jealous that his heart was about to be pierced. Wang Chuanda glanced at Gao Nan, only to see him staring fixedly at Yun Shishir. The ambition in his eyes was undisguised. This further confirmed his guess. This lad actually dared to covet Master Mu's woman. He must have eaten a bear's heart and a leopard's guts. He took another look at Yun Shishir and was equally amazed by her beauty. No wonder Master Mu and his nephew were so infatuated with her. This woman indeed had the ability to bewitch people. She was a seductive vixen. "It's getting late. Let's go home," Mu Yaja said to her. The farce had ended here, it was time to end it. As for Du Jiayan and Huang Lili, he would deal with them. Chapter 9:16. Surrounded by the crowd, Mu Yaja hugged Yun Shishir and was about to leave when Du Jiayan finally mustered up his courage and stepped forward. Mu Yaja glanced at him from the corner of his eye but ignored him. His gaze froze everything around him. It directly froze the movement of his feet. Du Jiayan was intimidated by his gaze. He did not dare to take another step forward. Mu Yaja calmly left with Yun Shishir in his arms. Before leaving, Yun Shishir looked back and smiled. Suddenly, she thought of something and turned to speak to Mu Yaja. Mu Yaja nodded and waited for her outside the door. She turned around and walked over. Du Jiayan saw her walking over and immediately went up to her with a fawning face. However, he missed as Yun Shishir walked up to Meng Qinghe and looked at him. "Class monitor, I heard that you're going overseas. I was in such a hurry that I didn't have time to prepare a gift." He immediately waved his hand. "Shishir, you're too polite. Why would I need a gift?" "Thank you." Yun Shishir pursed her lips to express her gratitude. Meng Qinghe was a little confused. "What's wrong? Why are you thanking me all of a sudden? I didn't have many friends in university, but you've always taken care of me. I feel that it's a pity that you're going overseas, so I prepared this." With that, she opened her handbag and took out a neatly wrapped gift. Meng Qinghe did not know what it was, but he took it in a daze. Meng Qinghe had a crush on Yun Shishir during their university days. She was beautiful, pure, gentle, and outstanding in her studies. He had always regarded her as a goddess that no one could replace. At that time, there were a lot of rumors about Yun Shishir, and the whole class did not like to be close to her. However, he believed her and even said to her, "Shishir, don't care about those rumors. I believe in you." Yun Shishir had never had the chance to express her gratitude for his trust. Hence, this was one of her goals for attending the banquet tonight. "I haven't had the chance to thank you. I hope you'll like this gift that I made myself." With that, she smiled and turned to leave. Du Jiayan wanted to chase after her to explain himself, but Yun Shishir completely ignored him. Meng Qinghe watched her leave, and the corners of his mouth curled up. he didn't have too many regrets about this class reunion. At least, he had a perfect ending to his youthful and obscure crush. At least, he could give himself an explanation. He lowered his head to look at the gift Yun Shusher and caressed it with his fingertips. His eyes uncontrollably teared up. Xiao Shui leaned over and asked with a smile, "Class rep, open it and see what Shusher gave you." "Go away." He laughed and pushed her away. Seeing the expression on his face, Xiao Shui could not help but ask in surprise, "Class rep, don't tell me, you have a crush on Shusher?" "No." Meng Qinghe frowned. Yes, yes, yes." In the midst of their frolicking. Soon, the waiter came over with the bill and handed it to him. He glanced at the bill and saw that it was 1,000,000 yuan. His eyes almost blurred as his legs gave way and he collapsed to the ground. Huang Lily also went forward to take a look. She was so shocked that her face turned pale. "Oh, God! 1,000,000 yuan. How many Gucci bags could he buy with that?" When Meng Qinghe walked out of the private clubhouse, he sat in his car and opened the gift. Chapter 9:17. It was a graduation photo. However, there were traces of Photoshop. In the corner of the crowd, Yun Shusher's graduation photo was photoshopped. When they graduated, Yun Shusher only took a single graduation photo before leaving in a hurry. She did not even take a group photo with her. Without her, the graduation photo in the class could not be considered a complete one. Yun Shusher then photoshopped herself into a complete graduation photo. This was a small token of her appreciation. Meng Qinghe covered his mouth as tears of love rolled down his cheeks. "Shusher, thank you," she would always be the goddess in his heart. When they left the private clubhouse, Gao Nan was about to send her home when Wang Chuanda called to summon him. He hung up the phone and said to her apologetically, "Is it all right for you to go home alone?" "Huh?" She reacted and immediately felt aggrieved. "Aren't you going to send me home? My uncle said that he wants to see me and is waiting for me. I think something must have happened. You can drive my car home. I didn't bring my driver's license." She pursed her lips but did not want to make things difficult for him, so she said, "How about I take a taxi home?" Her words could not hide her regret. He immediately hugged her and kissed her forehead, saying guiltily, "I'm sorry. I'll definitely make it up to you next time." All right. Your uncle must have something important to talk to you about. I should be more considerate of you," she said. His lips curled into a smile. Her thoughtfulness moved his heart. Xiao Shui, after all, was different from those women. At the very least, she knew how to be considerate of him. He accompanied her until she got into the car and specifically instructed the driver to send her to the door before letting her go. He turned around and walked into the private clubhouse. In the office, Wang Chuanda was sitting in front of the carved tea table, sipping his tea as if he had been waiting for him for a long time. "Uncle, I'm here." Gao Nan smiled and called out before turning to close the door. Crash! A teacup flew toward him and landed at his feet, shattering into pieces. The sudden noise gave him quite a fright, causing him to jump in fright. Turning around, Gao Nan saw Wang Chuanda sitting at the tea table with an angry look on his face. The anger in his eyes was terrifying. It was the first time in his life that he had seen his uncle look at him with such a terrifying gaze. He immediately asked with some fear and uneasiness, "Uncle, what's wrong with you? You still have the cheek to ask me what's wrong? I'm going to lose all my face because of you." Wang Chuanda was so angry that his facial muscles were twitching. Right now, there were no outsiders. In front of Gao Nan, there was no need for her to maintain her high and mighty demeanor. Her anger, which she had suffered at Mu Yaja's hands, turned into anger, and she vented it all on him. Gao Nan was baffled, but his mind was meticulous. After carefully reflecting on it, he smiled and walked to his uncle's side. Placing his hands on his shoulders, he rubbed them. "Uncle, don't be angry. I know I shouldn't have attended such a low-class banquet. But I'm doing this to accompany my girlfriend. I won't do it again. You have a serious girlfriend? Wang Chuanda didn't believe it when he said it. Gao Nan was a womanizer with countless women around him. He would be a fool to believe him. You've met that Xiao Shui from the Xiao family in the capital. The Xiao family. Chapter 9:18. The Xiao family in the capital was rather famous. He had heard of them but had never come into contact with them. Wang Chuanda narrowed his eyes slightly and contemplated for a moment before asking, is her father Xiao Zheng from the Xiao group? The Xiao family's reputation in the industry was quite good. It would be best if the Gaos and Xiaos were to unite through marriage. What the rich and powerful clans cared about was matching the social status of the two families. It was better than those women in showbiz. At least, she was innocent. Yes. When did you get into a relationship? Just over half a month ago. Wang Chuanda pondered for a moment, and the anger in his eyes subsided a little. Gao Nan could have a proper girlfriend, and only then did his expression soften a little. It's not that I want to nag at you, but you're not young anymore. Your mother has been nagging me about your marriage. As a man, at your age, it's time to settle down and start a family. Don't keep getting entangled with those women in showbiz. I think this girl is not bad. Find a good day and bring her home to meet your mother so that she can feel at ease. Yes. Still, isn't it a little too early to settle down and start a family? Gao Nan wanted to avoid marriage at all costs. The thought of it gave him a headache. He was still young, why should he get married so early? Wang Chuanda reprimanded him. Early? You're almost 28 and will be 30 soon. Is it too early? You should settle down early. Your grandfather has been nagging about having a great-grandson every day. Now that you're married, he'll also settle down. Gao Nan did not want to deal with this matter further, so he brushed it off with a few perfunctory words. He thought that this was the reason why Wang Chuanda was looking for him. However, he heard Wang Chuanda say sternly, what's going on between you and young Master Mu? He's already complained to me. Let me warn you first, young Master Mu's people, don't try to do anything funny, and don't try anything funny. Young Master Mu is not someone you can afford to offend. Gao Nan quickly understood. Did Mu Yaja say something to you? Wang Chuanda fumed. Be more respectful. Are you qualified to call him by his name? Gao Nan, on the other hand, was unconvinced. He and Mu Yaja were of the same age and generation. What was wrong with calling him by his name? Wang Chuanda seemed to have read his mind. Seeing the unconvinced look on his face, he snorted coldly and said, don't make such a face. It's not that I'm looking down on you, but you're also 28 years old. How can you compare to him? I don't even have the face to tell others. Look at young Master Mu. He's young and promising, and he's already a big shot in the capital. And look at you. Sigh, I don't need to scold you. If you call him young Master Mu in front of him, it's because of me. Otherwise. Uncle. Gao Nan was speechless. How can you insult your nephew like this? I'm just warning you. From now on, you're not allowed to offend young Master Mu's people. Do you understand? Wang Chuanda's gaze was sharp and his tone was firm. Regarding this matter, he did not go overboard. His harsh words were meant to give him a strong dose of medicine. Otherwise, if he continued to let this brat go on like this, who knew what kind of trouble he would bring to himself? I know. Gao Nan's face was perfunctory, but he was not going to give in obediently. He would wait until Mu Yaja got tired of the woman he fancied before he played with her. Anyway, it was impossible for him to give in obediently. Still, he could not let Wang Chuanda know what he was thinking. Chapter 9:19. Yay! We're home. When they reached home, Yun Shishir threw her bag aside and threw herself onto the soft sofa in her high heels. She did not look like a goddess at all. Mu Yaja closed the door and walked to the sofa. Just as he sat down, Yun Shishir snuggled into his arms and hugged his waist. She buried her face deep into his warm embrace. Mu Yaja gently stroked her hair on her forehead. His slender fingers slowly twirled a lock of hair around her temples and then gently released it. He leaned against his body lazily and held the side of his head with one hand as he twirled her hair around his fingers. His jet black hair contrasted with his fair skin. It was as if this was very interesting and he could not bear to let go. Yun Shishir seemed to be tired and let him play. In the bedroom, Yu Yu and Xiao Yichen looked at each other in surprise when they heard the door open. Mommy is back. Yes. She must be. Thus, the two little guys opened the door and ran into the living room. However, Xiao Yichen's sharp eyes caught sight of Mu Yaja hugging Yun Shishir on the sofa. He immediately turned around and carried Yu Yu back. Yu Yu felt a blur in front of his eyes before he was carried back by Xiao Yichen. Just as he was about to speak, Xiao Yichen covered his mouth with his chubby little hand and signaled him to keep quiet. Shu, what are you doing? Daddy and Mommy are hugging each other. Xiao Yichen was so excited that his face was flushed red. What? Yu Yu's expression changed and he wanted to go to the living room. Xiao Yichen immediately pulled him back. He was very strong and pulled him back in an instant. Yu Yu looked unhappy. Mu Yichen, what are you trying to do? You can't ruin Daddy's plans. Xiao Yichen pouted. It's rare for me to see Daddy and Mommy making progress. You can't mess things up. Yu Yu was speechless. Yu Yu. Xiao Yichen blinked innocently at him. Yu Yu couldn't do anything to him. I'll just watch. I won't cause any trouble. You said it. Yu Yu closed his eyes and sucked in a deep breath. Yes. I said it. Pinky swear. Xiao Yichen was still in disbelief. She gave him the finger. Yu Yu's patience had reached its limit. Mu Yichen, pinky promise. Xiao Yichen ignored the impatience on his face and hooked his pinky. Yu Yu pursed her lips and gave him a tug. The two little lads then tiptoed behind the wall and sneaked a peek at the sofa. Hey! Yun Shishir looked up at him and gently poked the man's chest with her finger. Mu Yaja raised his eyebrows and glanced at her. What's wrong? Was today's class reunion boring? Mu Yaja pondered for a moment. No. Yun Shishir's eyes widened in disbelief. I thought you would find it boring. Isn't it interesting? Your classmates are really interesting. Yun Shishir nestled in his arms and rubbed her fingertips. She was obviously a little uneasy. She remembered that Xiao Shui had said a lot of bad things about her when she went to the bathroom. Even if it was untrue, he still heard it. He didn't ask her about it along the way, so she didn't know if he heard it. Mu Yaja saw her complicated expression and pursed lips. He didn't know what she was thinking about. He couldn't help but pinch her cheeks. What are you thinking about? I'm thinking, Yun Shishir pondered for a moment and decided to ask about it. Chapter 920. She stared at his face, not wanting to miss the slightest change in his expression. Mu Yaja frowned slightly, but he did not try to hide it. Yeah. Did you say that I was kept by someone when I was in university? Yun Shishir tried to probe further. Mu Yaja frowned slightly. Yeah. Then you. Yun Shishir looked extremely conflicted. Suddenly, she asked, do you believe it? What do you think? Mu Yaja raised his eyebrows. Clearly, he felt that her question was unnecessary. I don't think you'll believe it, Yun Shishir said. Only someone as stupid as you would believe such a clumsy rumor, Mu Yaja said bluntly. Yun Shishir smiled. That's right, that's right. Halfway through her sentence, she stopped abruptly. Yun Shishir suddenly realized that he had actually attacked her intelligence. The smile on her face suddenly disappeared, and she glared at him angrily. However, when she saw that he could not hide the smile on his face, she became even angrier. She complained unhappily, Hey! You're even attacking me? Since when did I attack you? You just said that there's something wrong with my intelligence. That's the truth in front of you, stupid woman. Mu Yaja felt that her reaction was too slow. Her reaction was so slow. How am I stupid? Yun Shishir defended herself. If I'm stupid, how could I have given birth to such a smart baby like Yu? Yu, who was hiding in the corner, felt extremely satisfied when he heard this. He straightened his body slightly and brushed his bangs shamelessly. Xiao Yichen glanced at him from the corner of his eyes. This younger brother of his was quite shameless. Mu Yaja, who was sitting on the sofa, asked in all seriousness, "Are you sure that he inherited your genes?" "What else could it be?" "If you weren't so stupid, you might be smarter," Mu Yaja said from the bottom of his heart. Yun Shishir was deeply hurt. She wrinkled her nose in grievance and pouted her lips high. How am I stupid? How am I stupid? I'm very smart, okay? Praise me. Quick, praise me for being smart. Yun Shishir refused to admit defeat. She started messing around in his arms, pounding his chest with her small fists. She was acting coquettishly towards him. It was rare for her to act coquettishly, but when she did, she had her ways. The man was quickly defeated. Okay, you're smart. Mu Yaja was too lazy to lower himself to this little woman's level, so he coaxed and lied to appease her. You don't really mean what you say. Looking at Yun Shishir's tangled little face, Mu Yaja intimately rubbed the tip of her nose, then planted a kiss on the corner of her lips. His deep eyes met hers. I just like your stupidity. He just liked her clumsy appearance. She was so cute and adorable. He just couldn't get enough of her. Yun Shishir blushed and her heart raced at his words. She held her breath for a moment and looked at his handsome face that was just inches away from her. Her heartbeat was actually disrupted by his ambiguous breath that was close to her lips. She bit her lips slightly, her snow-white teeth leaving a faint imprint on her red and tender lips. His gaze fell on her tightly bitten lips, and he couldn't help but give them a light peck. After that light peck, he couldn't hold it in anymore. He caressed her cheeks and kissed her without restraint. He gently pried open her lips and engulfed her sweetness and beauty. Xiao Yichen and Yu, who were hiding in the corner, covered each other's eyes at the same time. Chapter 921. Xiao Yichen and Yu, who were hiding in the corner, covered each other's eyes at the same time. However, the two little lads couldn't suppress their curiosity and peeked through the gaps between their fingers. They couldn't help but blush when they saw the scene in front of them. What a beautiful scene. It was even more beautiful than the kisses in idol dramas. Mu Yaja held her cheeks and gently traced the outline of her lips. Then, like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water, he gently sucked away the saliva on her lips. Yun Shishir hooked her arms around his shoulders and responded to his kiss. The kiss was charming and gentle. Both of them were deeply immersed in the sweetness and couldn't extricate themselves. Xiao Yichen couldn't bear to watch any longer. He covered his eyes and dragged Yu back to the room. Yu raised his hands in protest. What are you doing? I haven't seen enough yet. Aren't you ashamed? You peeked at Daddy and Mommy kissing. Yu, you're a pervert. Xiao Yichen covered his burning cheeks and accused him. Yu felt that he had been shot even though he was lying down. He retorted unhappily, Mu Yichen, what do you mean by I'm a pervert? Didn't you see it too? Xiao Yichen couldn't say anything and didn't try to explain himself. He hugged Yu and climbed onto the bed. Yu, go to sleep. Yu, however, after what had just happened, Yu couldn't fall asleep at this moment. He saw the happiness on his mommy's face. For the first time in his life, he saw the undisguised happiness in her eyes. It seemed like his mommy really liked his daddy a lot. If that was the case, then he decided to protect his mommy's happiness and not allow anyone to destroy it. The temperature in the living room continued to rise. Mu Yaja lifted her skirt and wanted to use this kiss to elevate their relationship. However, at this moment, he heard a gulp. Yun Shishir's expression froze. Mu Yaja was also stunned. Who's calling? Goo. Another sound came from Mu Yaja's stomach. It was too much of a killjoy. The originally ambiguous atmosphere was immediately destroyed. She held her breath and pressed her ear against his stomach. She raised her head and blinked. Looking at him, she couldn't help but chuckle. Hungry? Mu Yaja's gaze, however, was fixated on her smiling lips. He was hungry. No matter which aspect it was, then I'll cook for you, okay? Yun Shishir sat up. Mu Yaja followed her words and slowly looked down. Yun Shishir looked at his burning gaze that kept moving downwards. Her face turned red, and she immediately knew what he was thinking. She immediately reached out to hold his face and lifted it up. Hey, don't misinterpret my words, okay? Misinterpretation? Mu Yaja's eyes were slightly puzzled, as if he did not understand. It was as if she was the one who was thinking dirty and not him. Yun Shishir's face turned slightly red. She pursed her lips and said, I said, if you're hungry, I'll cook noodles for you. Don't think too much, okay? Mu Yaja merely smiled and did not tease her further. Okay. He was really hungry. Hence, Yun Shishir went into the kitchen to prepare. She rummaged through the cabinets and realized that there were not many ingredients left in the house. Usually, Yu was very particular about the amount of food she prepared for dinner. Basically, it was just enough and there would not be any leftovers. Even if there were leftovers, they would not leave it for the next day because it was unhealthy. Hence, there was only instant noodles left in the house. Yun Shishir raised her eyebrows. It was better than nothing. Chapter 922. She had not been in the kitchen for a long time, so it was inevitable that she was rusty. Naturally, her culinary skills could not be compared to Yu's, but the taste was still palatable. When she placed the instant noodles and stir-fried vegetables on the table, Mu Yaja was hugging a pillow and closing his eyes to take a nap. She approached him quietly and saw the tiredness on his face. Although she could not bear to disturb him, she still gently woke him up. The noodles are ready. Mu Yaja was startled awake. His gaze sharpened for a moment, and then his vision cleared up. When he saw Yun Shishir's warm smile, his gaze softened and became calm again. Yun Shishir was stunned. When he opened his eyes just now, there was a strong murderous look in his eyes. It was very scary. Mu Yaja saw the slight change in her expression and could not help but ask, what's wrong? Your gaze just now, for a second, it was very scary. She said truthfully. Did it scare you? Yun Shishir nodded. When I was in military training, I had to be alert at all times even when I was sleeping, Mu Yaja said. Oh. Is that so? Yun Shishir immediately said, the noodles are ready. Hurry up and eat. It won't taste good when it gets cold. Mu Yaja sat at the table. When he saw that the so-called noodles were actually instant noodles, his eyes were filled with disdain. Instant noodles? He snorted coldly. This stupid woman. She used this to brush him off. Can't I? There's only instant noodles at home. You can suffer for a while. It's better than going hungry. Mu Yaja was still disdainful, but he was really hungry. Therefore, he did not care so much. He picked up his chopsticks and started eating. He took a bite. It tasted pretty good. It was not his first time eating instant noodles. The first time he ate it, she cooked it for him. The first time she cooked it, the taste was barely satisfactory. This time, the taste seemed to have improved. Your skills have improved. Mu Yaja blurted out a compliment that was not really a compliment. Yun Shishir was speechless. She looked at him silently, the corners of her eyes twitching. Does making instant noodles depend on one's skills? Even an idiot could do it, okay? However, she did not dare to say this. Therefore, she felt that Mu Yaja was that idiot. He definitely didn't know how to make instant noodles. Such a high and mighty man had never had to worry about food and clothing. Every bit of his life was taken care of by others. How could he step into a place like the kitchen? Mu Yaja lowered his head and ate the noodles. He ate one mouthful after another very quickly, but he didn't make a single sound. Ever since he was young, he had been bound by the rules of the nobles. He was not allowed to make a single sound at the dining table. He sat up straight, and the hand holding the chopsticks was slender and fair. Even though he was eating something as cheap as instant noodles, he still maintained the elegant demeanor of a noble. His noble aura seemed to be emitted from his bones. Yun Shishir sat opposite him and propped her head up. She watched him eat one mouthful after another. Soon, the bowl of noodles was empty. Is there more? Mu Yaja looked up and asked. Yun Shishir looked up and was stunned. She looked at him anxiously. Not enough. Not enough. Not enough. She had cooked 3 packets of noodles, but it was still not enough for him. This man had an appetite that was disproportionate to his lean figure. It was a little unscientific. She went into the kitchen again and cooked 3 packets of noodles. Soon, she came out with a big bowl of noodles and placed it in front of him. Chapter 923. Mu Yaja took mouthful after mouthful of noodles and wiped them clean. Not a single strand was left. He seemed to be really hungry as he even finished all the soup. Mu Yaja put down the bowl and stared at her with his dark eyes as he raised a brow. Yun Shishir asked carefully, "Are you full?" "No. But I'm not particularly hungry," Mu Yaja replied. She sucked in a deep breath of cold air. She suddenly felt that she should get to know this man again. Why didn't she realize that he had such a big appetite before? "If you're full, then wash the dishes." Yun Shishir ordered him with a smile. Mu Yaja's eyes narrowed and he said, "I don't know how to." "If you don't know how to, I'll teach you." "If that's the case, why don't you do it yourself?" Mu Yaja asked calmly. This question stumped her. Yun Shishir frowned and said, "It's already hard for me to make noodles for you." The man's eyes twitched. What was so hard about making a few bowls of noodles? Hence, he said, instant noodles should be easy to make. He glanced at her. She was clearly the one who wanted to slack off. "How about this? We'll decide by rock paper scissors. The loser will wash the dishes." Yun Shishir stood up and rolled up her sleeves proudly. Mu Yaja, who was sitting in his chair, nonchalantly raised the corner of his eye to look at her and readily agreed. "Okay." At this moment, the atmosphere in the restaurant was strange and heavy. Yun Shishir stared at Mu Yaja fiercely. She slowly rolled up her sleeves and raised her fist high. "Rock paper scissors." "No, let's do it again. Best of 3. "You, don't go back on your word." Yun Shishir glared at him. "Rock paper scissors." The air froze for a moment. Mu Yaja smiled and retracted his hand, crossing his arms elegantly. Yun Shishir was so angry that she almost threw herself onto the table and vomited blood. What was going on? She lost again. Yun Shishir pointed at him angrily. "You cheated. You must have cheated." Mu Yaja lazily knocked on the table, but his eyes were full of smiles. "Miss Yun, please pay attention to your demeanor. As the saying goes, if you agree to a bet, you must accept defeat." Yun Shishir endured and clenched her fists. How could she just let it go when it was related to a person's dignity? She wanted to pester him for another round, but Mu Yaja ignored her. Yun Shishir could only unwillingly carry the bowls and chopsticks into the sink. With a face full of grief and indignation, she took the steel wire ball, squeezed some detergent, and started to scrub it. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. Following that, a pair of long arms slowly wrapped around her waist, and a warm and strong body pressed against her back. Mu Yaja then hugged her waist from behind, and his chin gently rested on her shoulder. His warm breath gently rolled around her cheeks, as if he was teasing her invisibly. Yun Shishir was stunned, and her hands unconsciously stopped moving. She unnaturally tugged at the corner of her lips and said with a stiff smile, "Hey, hey, hey, what are you doing?" Mu Yaja didn't say anything, but reached out to hold her hands. At that moment, her hands were still stained with the foam and oil from the detergent. He held them gently, and his fingertips gently caressed them as he stared at the calluses on her hands. Her 10 fingers were very slender, and this kind of hand was born to play the piano. It was beautiful and clean, and she could easily cross an octave. Chapter 924. Yun Shishir widened her eyes in shock. Why was this man suddenly interested in her hands? She was still washing the dishes, and her hands were covered in detergent and grease. Didn't he find it dirty? Furthermore, her hands weren't considered good-looking. Why was he staring at them? In reality, she hadn't done much housework since she was young. However, after the Yun family fell apart, she started to learn how to do housework. When she was in university, she worked part-time. She remembered that when she was in university, manicures were popular in class. Almost every girl in class would happily get their nails done during the holidays. However, she couldn't do that. She had to work part-time. If she had manicures, it would be inconvenient for her to work. At that time, the most she did was wash the dishes. She had to wash thousands of dishes a day, and her back hurt. Her hands were also soaked in grease all year round, so they were a little rough. At one point, she felt dejected. Her hands were originally fine, but they were now so ugly because of her. The more he stared at them, the more embarrassed she felt. She retracted her hands, but he held them tightly. Yun Shishir was a little annoyed. "Why do you keep staring at my hands?" Mu Yaja chuckled softly all of a sudden and casually remarked, "Your hands are so ugly." Yun Shishir's face darkened instantly. She gritted her teeth and said, "Mu Yaja. Are my hands as ugly as you say?" He smiled. "But, when I look at them again, they look pretty good." Yun Shishir was stunned. She thought that she was hearing things. Huh? One moment, he said that her hands were ugly. The next moment, he said that they looked pretty good. Why was this man so contradictory? "Why do you have so many calluses?" he suddenly asked in a deep voice. Yun Shishir retracted her hands unwillingly and slapped his hands away. She then buried her head in washing the dishes again. Suddenly, she pretended to be relaxed and said, "I used to wash dishes often. Perhaps it's because I was soaked in grease all the time. It's a part-time job. When I was forced to, I even did heavy work." "Heavy work? A moving company. You even do that?" "It can't be helped. The salary is high, so." Yun Shishir didn't continue. The kitchen was silent for a moment. Mu Yaja didn't say anything, but she said indifferently, "Someone like you who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, who didn't have to worry about food and clothing, who came from a rich and powerful family, how could you understand the lives of poor commoners like us? If you're used to eating delicacies, how would you understand that there are people in this world who would not hesitate to move bricks just to fill their stomachs?" She suddenly raised her eyebrows and said, "I have a classmate who works part-time to study. You, on the other hand, probably don't have to worry about this. So Mu Yaja, isn't there a world of difference between the worlds we grew up in?" There was no movement behind him for a long time. His breathing was still soft and warm. In the kitchen, only the sound of water could be heard. He didn't speak for a long time. It was so long that Yun Shishir mistakenly thought that she had said something that angered him. Suddenly, she heard him say, "So, God let you meet me." Yun Shishir was stunned. "God loves you and thinks that you should be happy, so he let you meet me." Mu Yaja smiled. "And God is a little jealous of me. He thinks that my life is too extravagant, so he let me meet you." Chapter 925. Mu Yaja continued slowly, "God felt that he should dote on you, so he let you meet me. God also felt that I was living too comfortably, so he let me meet you and be annoyed by you all day long. She suddenly burst out laughing. Are you trying to coax a child? Yes, aren't you a child? Yun Shishir's face darkened. Of course I'm not. I'm already a mother. But in my eyes, you're still just a child. Hey, Muyaja, Yun Shishir instantly turned her head away in dissatisfaction. Before she could finish her sentence, a fiery kiss landed on her lips. It was a soft kiss, but it was a quiet kiss. It wasn't as wild and domineering as before. She widened her eyes in astonishment and blinked in surprise. Her eyelashes brushed past his eyelids and intertwined with his eyelashes. Yun Shishir furrowed her brows slightly. She looked up and bit her lip hard. Who kisses with their eyes so wide open? Yun Shishir swallowed softly and pretended to be calm. My eyes are naturally big. Even if I don't open them, they'll still be big. Muyaja pursed his lips. So, do you have to twist the meaning of my words? Yun Shishir pursed her lips and smiled. She smacked her lips and pretended to be generous. She smiled and said, all right then. Then I'll take it that I'm at a disadvantage. Let's do it again. Thus, she closed her eyes and pouted mischievously. She couldn't help but open her eyelids slightly, looking like she was teasing him. Muyaja's eyes twitched fiercely. Why was it that no matter how good the atmosphere was, it was always so easy to ruin it when it came to her? He really wanted to slap her face. Thus, he flicked her forehead hatefully and said, go wash the dishes. With that, Muya turned around with a frown. Behind him, Yun Shishir's laughter could be heard. Ha ha. You're shy. Ha. He turned his head coolly to glance at her, only to see Yun Shishir wiggling her butt and sticking her tongue out at him. Muyaja glared daggers at her. When he turned his face, he could no longer suppress the indulgent smile on his lips. He walked to the balcony and made a call. This call was to Du Buxiong. Just now, when Yun Shishir was cooking noodles, he ordered someone to send him Du Buxiong's number. The phone rang for a while before it was picked up. Then, Du Buxiong's sleepy and confused voice came from the other end. Who is it? Director Du, who are you? Du Buxiong asked in puzzlement. Muyaja. He introduced himself. The person on the other end was stunned for a moment before exclaiming in surprise, oh. It's Chairman Mu. Du Buxiong instantly sobered up. At first, he was still a little skeptical. This Muyaja was such a distinguished big shot. Why would he take the initiative to call him in the middle of the night? He was a little flattered and smiled flatteringly. Director Mu, what made you call me personally? I'm really afraid. Yun Shishir finished washing the dishes and walked out. Seeing Muyaja standing on the balcony making a call, she didn't disturb him. She went into the bathroom to take a shower and lay down comfortably on the bed. On the other side, Muyaja stood on the balcony, facing the night breeze, but didn't speak for a long time. On the other end of the phone, Du Buxiong was holding the phone. Seeing that he didn't speak for a long time, he went from being wild with joy at the beginning to trembling with fear at the moment. His thoughts kept changing. Chapter 926. At this moment, Muyaja no longer had a smile on his face. His face was cold and emotionless, but his eyes were deep and bottomless. Du Buxiong was a somewhat famous nouveau riche in this city. It was said that he had made his fortune through construction projects. His business was going smoothly and he was considered a little famous in this industry. However, not to mention the Muse, even when compared to the Songs and Gaos, the Du family was not considered a so-called prestigious family. They were just nouveau riche. To Muyaja, she could not be any more insignificant than this. If Muyaja was a mountain, then Du Buxiong was only a small sesame seed. According to his character, he would not bother to deal with such a small figure. However, it was different this time. Tonight, Huang Lili and Du Jiayan's ugly faces were really disgusting. He thought that the Du family was a prestigious family and specially ordered someone to check on Du Buxiong's background. Alas, this was the result. At the same time, he also learned that Du Buxiong had some cooperation with the muse. Although it was called a cooperation, it was actually a cooperation between Du Buxiong and the Mu Group. Du Buxiong had contracted a few projects under the Mu Group's name. Du Buxiong placed great importance on the Mu Group's projects, but to the Mu Group, he was just a contractor that could be replaced and retendered at any time. This Du Buxiong was dispensable. Hence, in front of Du Buxiong, he personally announced that his cooperation with the Mu Group's projects was cancelled. He would be replaced and retendered. With just a few simple sentences, he obliterated all of Du Buxiong's painstaking efforts in one fell swoop. Du Buxiong anxiously asked what had happened. Mu Yaja said meaningfully, "You should ask your precious son about this matter." With that, he hung up the phone without giving him a chance. He would have sent someone to announce this matter to Du Buxiong, and it would have ended there. He personally called him to tell him about this matter as a form of respect. In addition, he also beat around the bush and asked Du Buxiong to ask his son about it. After hanging up the phone, Du Buxiong was still confused. However, he vaguely felt that his son must have caused some trouble for him again. Speaking of his son, Du Buxiong was filled with anger. It was one thing for him to indulge in debauchery and gambling, but this son of his was spoiled by his wife to the point that he was used to being rebellious. It was one thing for him to be flamboyant outside and cause trouble for him. But now, they actually provoked the Mu family. Mu Yaja was someone a small family like the Du family could afford to offend. This time, Du Buxiong was infuriated. One had to know that there were two types of disasters. The first type could be solved with money. On the other hand, if you provoked a big shot, you couldn't settle it with money. A contractor like him had always looked at the faces of big shots in this circle. As long as Mu Yaja said the word, wouldn't it be a matter of minutes for him to go bankrupt? In short, Mu Yaja's phone call was like a bolt of lightning on a sunny day, making Du Buxiong restless. He sat on the bed anxiously and smoked a few cigarettes. He was really worried, so he called the company. The company had underwritten the Mu Group's real estate project and was working overnight. However, when the call came, they said that the Mu Group had cancelled their project overnight. How could this be? Chapter 927. Right now, he could not even sleep well. His mind was filled with Mu Yaja's cold voice. Thinking of that hair-raising warning, he felt even more uneasy. He hurriedly picked up the phone and called his son, who had caused so much trouble for him. As soon as the call was connected, he vented all his anger on him. "Where are you now? Come over here." On the other end, Du Jiayan was at an entertainment clubhouse. The environment was noisy. Tonight's class banquet had embarrassed him, so under Huang Lily's suggestion, he invited a group of classmates to the clubhouse to have fun. Du Jiayan, who was having a good time at the clubhouse, picked up the call a little late. The moment he picked up, he heard his father's anxious roar. Confused, he asked blankly, "Dad, what's wrong with you?" Since young, Du Buxiong had doted on him, relying on his mother's doting, never once did he yell at him or even lay a finger on him. Now that he heard this sudden outburst of anger, he was instantly dumbfounded. Du Buxiong heard the noisy environment on the other end. This lad still had the mood to fool around outside at such a critical time. He said unhappily, "What kind of good thing did you get into for me? Get back home now. I have something to ask you." Good thing? What good thing? He hadn't done anything good recently. He had only done some harmless bad things. However, he was still in the middle of singing and had not enjoyed himself to the fullest. He was a little indignant that he had to go back now. Du Jiayan thought about it and decided to use his old trick to coax his father. "Dad, can't we go later? I'm still having fun with my friends, we're only in the middle of it." Bang! He seemed to hear the sound of something heavily hitting the table. It was ear-piercing and exuded a strong murderous aura. Du Jiayan was so shocked that his breathing stopped. He did not dare to continue speaking. He knew that Du Buxiong was angry. Very angry, too. "I don't care what happened. Anyway, I'm only giving you 20 minutes. Get back home now. If I don't see you in 20 minutes, I won't be polite to you. With that, he hung up the phone. Du Jiayan was dumbfounded as he held the phone. He blinked his eyes in bewilderment and hung up gloomily. Seeing this, Huang Lili asked carefully. Du Jiayan snapped, how would I know what happened? My dad told me to rush back. Ah. This was only the beginning. I'm not high yet. Huang Lili was reluctant to part with him. What's there to play? You know my dad's temper. Once he loses his temper, it's out of control. Hurry up and go back. Thus, the two of them didn't even have time to say goodbye to their friends. They rushed out of the house, hailed a taxi, and sped all the way home. Even though he did not know what was going on, he was still on tenterhooks. He had seen how Du Buxiong looked when he was angry. It was terrifying. Now that he had to face it, he really couldn't take it. He practically sprinted all the way home. Leaving Huang Lili in the living room, he walked into the study room and opened the door. He saw Du Buxiong pacing back and forth in front of the window with his hands behind his back, looking furious. Hearing the sound of the door opening, he turned around abruptly and swept a pair of sharp eyes at him. Chapter 928. Now that he had to face it, he really could not take it. He practically sprinted all the way into the house, leaving Huang Lili in the living room. Walking into the study, he pushed open the door and saw Du Buxiong pacing back and forth in front of the window with his hands behind his back, looking furious. Hearing the sound of the door opening, he abruptly turned his head and swept a pair of sharp eyes at him. Du Jiayan was instantly shocked by this gaze and took a few steps back as a layer of cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He shrunk his shoulders in trepidation and stammered, Dad. What's wrong with you? Why are you looking for me? Du Buxiong glanced at him again before walking to the table and sitting down. Seeing that his son seemed to be frightened out of his wits, he seemed to realize that he had lost control of his emotions. Looking at his precious son, he could not help but suppress his anger and temper. He knocked on the table and said in a low voice, Sit down. Du Jiayan furrowed his brows and slowly sat down at the table. He sighed helplessly and asked coldly, Jiayan, what have you done to offend someone these few days? Offend? Who did I offend? Du Jiayan cocked a brow. He did not think too much of it and shook his head with certainty. Nothing. Tell me the truth. Du Buxiong frowned, his tone hardening. Du Jiayan felt aggrieved. Dad. I really didn't. Do I look like the kind of person to stir up trouble? What's wrong with you? It's as if you've eaten explosives. You're denouncing me the moment I come back. Seeing his father's increasingly ashen face, Du Jiayan's voice became softer and softer. Ha! Eaten explosives? You're pushing your dad to his death. He shouted, What did I do? I didn't do anything. You didn't do anything. You didn't do anything, yet that person called me. How did you offend that person? Du Jiayan was getting more and more confused. What do you mean by that person? Who is that person? Dad, even if you want to blame me, you have to let me know clearly. Okay. Then, I'll let you know clearly. Du Buxiong picked up his teacup and gulped down a few mouthfuls. He then sighed and asked with a frown, Jiayan, how did you anger Master Mu? Master Mu? Du Jiayan raised his brow strangely. His heart. However, he didn't dare to admit it. And which Master Mu? Du Buxiong lowered his voice. Dishing Financial Group CEO, Mu Yazha. Yes, you didn't offend him, but you bullied his people. Aren't you embarrassing him? His people? Du Jiayan had a bad feeling about this. Could it be that his father knew everything? Who is it? He asked knowingly but did not dare to say it out loud. Chapter 929. Du Jiayan was a little frightened, but facing his father's frightening gaze, he subconsciously wanted to cover up the good deed he had done out of guilt. Thus, he softly and perfunctorily said, Dad, I really don't know any young Master Mu. I don't care what grudges you have with young Master Mu, nor what you've done to him or what he's done to you. In any case, you'd better settle this matter properly. Hurry up and apologize to him properly. Just as he finished speaking, Du Jiayan raised his voice in disbelief. Dad, what did that young Master Mu do to you? You seem to have eaten explosives. Du Buxiong was already in a fit of anger. Seeing that his son was not giving him a way out, his anger flared up again. He was so angry that he wished he could give him a tight slap. Alas, this was his son whom he had doted on since young. His hand was raised high, and if he really wanted to slap him, he really did not know how to do it. Clenching his hand into a fist, he slammed it on the table. The table groaned in pain as if it were about to crack. Du Jiayan jumped in fright and was tongue-tied as he stood rooted to the spot. He had never seen his father treat him so fiercely. He guessed that something must have happened, so he told him everything in detail. After saying that, he observed his father's expression and carefully asked, Dad, I really don't know his identity. If I did, would I have offended him like this? Also, what happened? Because you offended young Master Mu, the Mu Group's real estate company cancelled my case. Recalling Mu Yaja's cold and heartless voice, he gritted his teeth in hatred and said angrily, Aren't you digging a grave for our whole family? Is young Master Mu someone you can afford to offend? Are you really tired of living? It's fine if you're tired of living, but are you planning to drag the whole family into the fire pit? Du Jiayan was a little disapproving. Isn't it just the Mu family? No matter how big the world is, can it be bigger than the emperor? Ha! I've really never seen the emperor before, but in the capital, the Mu family is really a well-known figure. Du Jiayan was stunned. Du Buxiong coldly glanced at her and said in a deep voice, The Mu family's business is huge, and they have businesses all over the world. No one knew how vast the Mu Group's empire was. They only knew that the Mu family's assets were the driving force of the entire financial world and the core of the entire Asia's economy. What's even more frightening is that the Mu family's connections are very extensive. From the government to the government, there are people from the Mu family everywhere, not to mention the inextricable connections in other fields. Even in Beijing, the mayor had to give young Master Mu some face, let alone your old man. Let me tell you, whether you play in the open or in the dark, you are seeking your own death by going against Mu Yaja. You have picked the wrong opponent. You don't even know how you died. How ugly was his death? Du Jiayan's lips twitched stiffly as he asked in disbelief, Is it really that exaggerated? Dad. Chapter 930. It doesn't matter who you bully, but you can't bully Master Mu. Do you understand? I still want to live for a few more years. It wasn't easy for me to climb to where I am today. Can't you give me a way out? Du Jiayan's expression was complicated when he heard this. He opened his mouth in a daze, still somewhat doubtful. Dad, is that Mu Yaja really that scary? He. I don't know how powerful the Muse are. I only know that if he steps on me, my entire foundation will be destroyed. Du Jiayan fell silent. After taking a shower, Mu Yaja walked to the two little lads' bedroom. When he pushed open the door, the bedroom was warm. The electric fan was blowing, and the air conditioner was not turned on. The two little lads were covered with a blanket each and were already asleep. Yu Yu's sleeping posture was considered elegant, but Xiao Yichen's sleeping posture was still as rude as usual. One of his legs was hanging on Yu Yu's body as he slept soundly. Mu Yaja walked over and saw Yu Yu frowning slightly. Even though he was asleep, his face seemed to be full of disdain. Xiao Yichen was probably too restless in his sleep, so the two lads tossed and turned for a while before falling asleep. He reached out and pinched the little lad's brows until the crease between his brows was flattened. Then, he lowered his eyes and planted a kiss on his forehead. This was something he had always wanted to do. In the past, when he was at the Mu residence, he would return home later when Xiao Yichen was already asleep. He would then go to his room and give him a good-night kiss. Other than going on business trips, he would do it almost every day. However, Yu Yu's goodnight kiss seemed to be 7 years late. It was probably not too late, right? Mu Yaja rubbed his hair dotingly and walked to Xiao Chen's side to kiss his forehead before leaving. After the door closed, Yu Yu opened his eyes groggily. He felt as if a tall figure had come to his window, kissed his forehead, and then left. Was it Daddy? When Mu Yaja walked into the bedroom, Yun Shishir was surprisingly awake. She leaned against the headboard with heavy eyelids. When she saw him enter the room, she immediately pulled up the blanket and covered herself tightly. He closed the door. Not asleep yet? Yun Shishir nodded absent-mindedly. I'm waiting for you. Mu Yaja was stunned for a moment before his lips curled into a faint smile as warmth filled his heart. On the other side, he calmly took off his pajamas and said in a deep voice, if you're tired in the future, you can sleep first. You don't have to wait for me. After taking off his pajamas, his muscular body was exposed to the air. His chiseled chest, well-defined muscles, and the perfect curve of his lower abdomen. It was so firm that there was no excess fat at all. It was comparable to a top model's body. Yun Shishir did not care about what he said. The moment she opened the door, all she could think about was admiring his body. Her gaze was a little dazed. Mu Yaja was a shrewd person. When he saw her gaze, he knew what she was thinking. He smiled and asked, have you seen enough? Yun Shishir finally came back to her senses. She licked her pink lips and nodded. I've seen enough. Mu Yaja asked again, do you want to touch it again? He was openly behaving like a hooligan. Yun Shishir shook her head decisively and said sourly, what's so great about having a good body? Chapter 931. You're not allowed. He sat by the bed and rejected her without thinking. Yun Shishir furrowed her brows. Why? You're already so skinny. If you lose any more weight, you'll turn into a skeleton spirit. Yun Shishir said pitifully, I'll look better if I'm skinnier. I'll look more photogenic if I'm skinnier. So what? Hugging her made him uncomfortable. She still had to have some meat on her body. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to fill his arms. Yun Shishir said, I feel that I've gained a little weight recently. Tell me, if I get fatter, will I become a pig? Mu Yaja said calmly, you don't have to wait until then. You're already as stupid as a pig now. That one sentence was like 1,000 arrows piercing through her heart. Yun Shishir was very hurt. The lights in the bedroom suddenly went out. Mu Yaja covered himself with the blanket. Yun Shishir was stunned. In the darkness, she couldn't see anything clearly. She had been losing a lot of nutrients since she was young. As a result, she had severe night blindness and was very afraid of the dark. It was also from a very young age that she stayed at home alone, facing the darkness alone. She was so afraid that she hid under the blanket. It was also because of this that she developed a bad sleeping habit. Her hands groped in the direction of Mu Yaja. Hey, Mu Yaja. You, her hand was suddenly held tightly by a warm palm. With a strong pull, she was embraced by a pair of arms into a broad chest. His faint voice came from above. I'm here. It's time to sleep. Behave yourself. Am I very restless when I sleep? Yun Shishir said angrily. Your sleeping posture is very indecent. You're just like a koala bear. Yun Shishir was speechless. Mu Yaja pulled her into his arms and locked his arms. He smiled and said, go to sleep. Yun Shishir blushed and mumbled awkwardly. She gently closed her eyes and fell asleep after a while. Mu Yaja gently stroked her hair, pursed his lips, and planted a light kiss on her forehead. The next day, Yun Shishir woke up early. Mu Yaja was still sleeping, so she tucked him in. It was rare for him to have a day off, so she wanted him to sleep a little longer. She tiptoed to the bathroom, tidied herself up, and set off for the set. When she was about to leave, she received several missed calls from unknown numbers. She pursed her lips but did not return them. She was in a rush to get to the set, so she ignored them. After the elevator scare that day, Mushi exposed the hotel on the internet, which immediately led to accusations from the netizens. At the same time, it also revealed that the hotel often had people stuffing flirtatious little cards, so privacy was not guaranteed and so on. The hotel was a chain of express hotels. The general manager of the hotel specially opened a Weibo account and stood up to apologize, but it still couldn't calm the anger of the netizens. What a joke. Gu Xingze and Yun Shishir were trapped in the elevator, and the video was exposed on the internet. This caused the fans of Gu Xingze and Yun Shishir to join forces to suppress them. In short, the outcome was tragic enough. The hotel manager wanted to kneel down and beg for mercy. After a while, the commotion died down. Of course, this was all in the future. She went back to filming. After some adjustments, Yun Shishir recovered to her best state. On this day, she received a mysterious gift. It was a Mercedes-Benz nanny van. When Qin Zhou handed her the keys to the nanny van, she was surprised. What's this? Guess. She carefully looked at the Mercedes-Benz logo on the car key and was a little puzzled. Mercedes-Benz? Aha, Qin Zhou said, a nanny van. Chapter 932. I can't afford to give such a big gift. Then, who gave it to you? Qin Zhou looked askance at her, his eyes unreadable. Yun Shishir probed carefully, Muyaja. Who else could it be? This isn't very appropriate. Yun Shishir felt a little guilty. In the production team, Yang Mi and Gu Xingze both had nanny vans. In the industry, a celebrity having a nanny van seemed to be a symbol of status. There was a nanny van. After filming, they could sit in the nanny van and rest. Previously, Yan Bingqing also had one. However, even though she had a nanny van, she still had to fight for Yun Shishir's resting room. However, as a newbie who had just debuted and already had her own nanny van, it was inevitable that she would be gossiped about. What are you afraid of? Who dares to gossip about you? They'll all be banned. Yun Shishir was amused by his bold attitude. Qin Zhou briefly explained the situation to her. It turned out that Mu Yazha was afraid that she would be tired from filming and would not be able to rest well, so he bought a nanny van for her. The nanny van was an RV. The car was parked in the production team's parking lot. Qin Zhou brought Yun Shishir to take a look. The nanny van was luxurious, with a bathroom, living room, TV, video, refrigerator, dressing table, and other facilities. Yun Shishir did not show it on her face, but she felt sweet inside. He was actually so considerate for her, probably because he was afraid that she would be too tired from filming. In the afternoon, Yun Shishir had just finished filming when Mushi looked for her, saying that someone was looking for her outside the production team. Who is it? Mushi shook her head. How could she know them? She only said, I don't know them. It's a man and a woman. They couldn't get into the production team, so they got someone to pass a message that they have something important to discuss with you. Coincidentally, she had just finished filming. Since someone was looking for her, it should be something important. Walking out of the set, Yun Shishir saw Du Jiayan and Huang Lili standing at the entrance from afar. When they saw her, their faces immediately lit up with flattering smiles. This smile was too flattering, too brilliant, and had the intention of currying favor with him. As soon as she saw her, Huang Lili immediately approached her and handed her a bottle of lemonade. She then rubbed her palms together. Shishir, you must be tired from filming. Have some water first. Yun Shishir lowered her head and glanced at the water in her hand. She was startled at first. This bottle of water was of a good brand, and it was especially expensive. It probably cost more than 10 yuan per bottle. He was obviously trying to please her. But if he ignored her, he would be hiding evil intentions, wouldn't he? Thus, without even looking at it, she casually threw it into the trash can and said calmly, Sorry, I'm afraid it's poisonous. The smile on Huang Lili's face froze, but she didn't say anything. She just said, Look at you. What are you talking about? How could there be poison in the water? Sure, you really like to joke. How did you find this place? Yun Shurshu's face was a little wary. Ever since the class reunion, she had received many messages from her classmates. Out of courtesy, she had also added them to the WeChat group. The WeChat group had already kicked Huang Lili out. As for what happened that day, everyone had a tacit understanding and didn't mention a word about it. They were also overly enthusiastic toward her. It's probably what happened that day. Yun Shurshu guessed. Chapter 933. Yun Shurshu was on high alert. What are you guys doing? Is there something you can't say here? She felt that these two were up to no good. Du Jiayan, in particular, had previously been condescending toward her, but now, he was extremely enthusiastic. His fawning face, in particular, made her even more vigilant. Don't worry, we don't have any other intentions. Don't think too much. Huang Lili said softly. Actually, it's because something happened at home. You should know. I don't know. Yun Shurshu then added, I don't think it's anything important. I still have scenes to shoot, so I'll take my leave first. With that, she turned to leave. Seeing this, Du Jiayan panicked and hurried forward to stop her. In a moment of desperation, he grabbed her arm. Yun Shurshu only felt the area he touched burning and immediately swatted his hand away. What are you doing? Don't get touchy. Sorry for the offense. Du Jiayan smiled obsequiously. Sure, I've asked around at the set. You finished filming today. He had rushed to the set earlier and handed out a few cigarettes to the security guard at the entrance. He only dared to look for Yun Shurshu after knowing that she had finished filming. Yun Shurshu narrowed her eyes. Seeing them like this, it seemed that something had really happened. She thought for a moment. Since it was broad daylight and they were at the entrance of the film set, they couldn't do anything to her. Thus, she said, I'm very busy. If you have something to say, don't drag it out. Then, shall we find a quiet place? Follow me. Yun Shurshu turned around and walked toward the limousine. Huang Lili and Du Jiayan exchanged glances before following closely behind. However, when they saw Yun Shurshu get into a limousine, they were both surprised and envious. What a grand limousine. This car must cost a few million yuan, right? Her heart was filled with jealousy and envy. Yun Shurshu was no longer the same as before. People really could not be compared to each other. She looked at Du Jiayan beside her and then thought of Mu Yaja whom she had met that day. They were both boyfriends, so why was there such a huge difference? On second thought, Yun Shurshu was from the entertainment industry. Rich and powerful families were particular about this. An actress like her would only be favored for a short period of time. Could it be that she could marry into a wealthy family and have a meteoric rise? The rich and powerful look down on actors and actresses in the entertainment industry. With this thought in mind, she followed Du Jiayan into the RV. Yun Shurshu poured a cup of tea for each of them. When the three of them sat down, she went straight to the point. If you have something to say, just say it. There's no need to beat around the bush. Since she had already said so, he was naturally more than happy to oblige. Hence, he said, it's like this. That day, during the class reunion, you know it, too. Is there some misunderstanding? What misunderstanding? Yun Shurshu raised her eyebrows. Anyway, no matter what the misunderstanding is, it's all in the past, isn't it? Shurshu, I didn't mean to offend you. You can say that I'm blind, or that I'm measuring the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. Isn't it all in the past? Isn't it good to let bygones be bygones? His tone was very sincere, and his face was full of reverence. Yun Shurshu was a little confused by his words. Is there anything you can't say clearly? I really don't understand what you're saying. Chapter 934. Du Jiayan recounted the incident in detail. It turned out that, since that day at the class reunion, Du Jiayan and Huang Lili's actions had clearly offended Mu Yaja. He did not say anything because, in his eyes, small fries like Du Jiayan and Huang Lili were not worthy of his condemnation. Take the simplest example, if a mad dog barked at you by the roadside, would you bite it back? Just because he did not say anything did not mean that he would let it go. However, the things they had said and done had made him unhappy. Since he was unhappy, then he had to do something to make them unhappy as well. This was his character. On the surface, he did not say anything, but behind his back, he could flatten the Du family's foundation with just a finger. It was unknown what methods Mu Yaja used, but after that day, the Du family's projects with the Mu group were all cancelled. The cooperation was written in black and white. This matter was considered a breach of contract by the Muse, so the Du family could bring the contract to their doorstep. However, did he dare to? With the Mu group's powerful background, they could cover the sky with one hand in the capital. Where could he go to sue? Be it in the legal world, the political world, or even the Supreme Court, there were people from the Muse. The Muse had openly breached the contract and slapped them in the face, but did Du Buxiong dare to sue? He did not even dare to let out a fart. Cancel it? So be it. He still had other projects on hand. Although the cases that he had worked with Mu Group were lucrative, since his son had offended them, Du Buxiong could only grit his teeth and swallow his pride even if he was unwilling to do so. Fine, I'll admit it. What else could he do? Go against the Muse. Alas, he did not expect things to be so simple. Mu Yaja's methods were swift and decisive. He had always been ruthless. Since he had made up his mind to do something, he would not give up until he forced the other party into a dead end. The next day, news came that the boss, who had always been on good terms with Du Buxiong, had committed suicide by jumping off a building. Suicide by jumping off a building? Why did something like this happen at such a critical juncture? Du Buxiong was terrified when he thought about it. He knew very well that this matter was definitely related to the Mu Group. This was not the end of it. Several projects that he had worked with had either been maliciously acquired or exposed to scandals of collusion between officials and businessmen. One of the project's legal representative, who had worked closely with the Du family, was suspected of corruption and bribery. The amount of money involved was so large that even the central government was involved in the investigation. Du Buxiong's heart skipped a beat. In order to protect himself, he had no choice but to stop the development of the project. The unforeseen events of the past few days had caused Du Buxiong to be unable to sleep soundly. His entire being was in a trance. Due to various problems, all the cases on hand had been interrupted. How could there be such a coincidence? Why didn't it happen earlier or later? Why did it have to happen now? It was obvious that someone was behind all of this. Was the Mu Group trying to force him into a dead end? Even if the contract was terminated, the losses caused by the stagnation of the project were in the millions every day. Millions? What kind of concept was that? In just a few days, he was heavily in debt. If this continued, the Du family would be completely finished. Chapter 935. He was well aware that the Mu family was making things difficult for him. Having been in the capital for so many years, he had accumulated some connections, but at this critical juncture, he could not use them at all. He went to seek an audience, but the other party refused to see him. What a joke! Who would dare to be related to him at this time? Did he want to be taught a lesson? Du Buxiong was mentally and physically exhausted. Due to his exhaustion, he had a heart attack and was now lying in the hospital. Yun Shishir glanced at him and then at Huang Lili. Both of them looked haggard. When it came to emotional parts, they were in tears. This was especially so for Du Jiayan, who had watched helplessly as the Du family's great foundation was destroyed in his hands. His father's foundation, which had been built over half of his life, was destroyed with just a few words from Mu Yaja. He blamed himself endlessly. Naturally, he was afraid and hated Yun Shishir. At the same time, he knew how important this woman was in Mu Yaja's heart. Even if he hated her to the core, he did not dare to offend her. Yun Shishir listened without any change in her expression, but she was also sighing in her heart. She didn't know anything about these things. However, she was also a little dazed. She did not expect that Mu Yaja could destroy the Du family with just a few words. This was too exaggerated. However, this was the truth. Yun Shishir said in a low voice, "Actually, you're asking the wrong person, right? I can't decide the life and death of the Du family. I don't have the ability to do so. But, you can definitely help us, right?" Du Jiayan looked worried. He seemed to have aged a few years overnight, with a few strands of white hair growing on his head. Huang Lili remained silent at the side. In fact, when the Du family got into trouble, she already had thoughts of retreating. Husband and wife were birds in the same forest, but when faced with a disaster, they flew away separately. Moreover, she and Du Jiayan were not married yet. With such a thing happening to the Du family, she naturally wanted to leave unscathed and find another branch. However, Du Jiayan did not know what she was thinking. He threatened that if she dared to abandon him at this critical juncture, he would kill her. Huang Lili was scared and didn't dare to do it anymore. Du Jiayan was depressed and his resentment toward Huang Lili had reached its peak. He had always been concerned about his reputation, and he loved Huang Lili very much. He used to be a playboy, but when he met Huang Lili, he wanted to settle down and start a family. But who would have thought that a class reunion would bring him such a calamity? His current mental state was already on the verge of collapse. After experiencing all these things, he suddenly became mature overnight. He also knew that he was insensible and had brought a devastating disaster to his family. Seeing Yun Shishir biting her lips and remaining silent, he suddenly made up his mind and knelt on the ground with a plop. His actions shocked Huang Lili. She immediately felt embarrassed. She was already so down and out in front of Yun Shishir, but he still knelt down in front of her. Where was she supposed to put her face? Chapter 936. He looked up and cried. "I don't care what happens to me. If you still hate me, I'll do anything you want me to do. If you want me to do it, I'll even pay with my life. Still, I beg you, let my family off." Huang Lili felt utterly humiliated. She covered her face and did not know what to do. Yun Shishir appeared calm on the surface, but deep down, she sympathized with him. "You don't have to kneel before me. I don't hate you." "Really?" He looked up, still doubtful. Yun Shishir nodded. He wasn't the one who was in the wrong. She wasn't so petty as to force him into a dead end just because of a few words. Leave some leeway in everything and leave a way out for everyone. She had always believed in this saying. If this was a punishment, then it was enough. It should end here. Then, are you willing to plead for the Du family?" His eyes were misty. "I'll try." "Do you mean that you've forgiven me?" With a sincere look on his face, he repeatedly explained, "Yun Shishir, I really know my mistake. Please forgive me, alright?" "Alright. Quickly get up." Yun Shishir said helplessly. Only then did he dare to get up, his face finally looking more relaxed. Seeing that Yun Shishir was willing to relent, Huang Lili felt more at ease. Yun Shishir suddenly said, "Don't misunderstand. I'm only forgiving him, not you." That was because some mistakes could never be forgiven. Huang Lili was stunned by her words. She wanted to say something, but Yun Shishir had already gotten up. "Alright. I'll think of a way. You guys can go back." With that, she alighted from the limousine. She left behind a dazed Huang Lili and Du Jiayan. "Jiayan, what did she mean by that?" Du Jiayan wiped his tears, glanced at her, and snorted. "Don't you know what she said?" When Yun Shishir reached home, the sky was still bright. Yun Tianyu was teaching Xiao Yichen his homework when she pushed open the door to the study room. For the past few days, Xiao Yichen had been staying with Yu Yu. Although Yu Yu said that she disliked it, she did not reject it as much as before. With the two little guys together, the house was a little livelier. At least, it was not so lonely. She saw Xiao Yichen sitting in front of his desk with his exercise book spread out in front of him. He held a pen in his hand and looked like he had suffered a lot. Yu Yu stood to the side with her arms crossed. Her face was full of disdain, and from time to time, she would hit his head with a rolled-up newspaper. Stupid. You don't even know how to answer such a simple question. Sob. Xiao Yichen blinked his eyes pitifully as if he was about to cry. Yun Shishir sighed. When Mu Yaja returned, Yun Shishir was swinging gently on the swing in the back garden. From afar, she looked as beautiful as a painting as she sat among the Chinese roses. He walked over and hugged her from behind. Yun Shishir looked up and saw him. She smiled. You're back. Mu Yaja kissed her forehead. When did you come back? Around 3 p.m. I ended early today. Oh, right. She giggled. Thank you for giving me the RV. I like it a lot. Mu Yaja's lips curled into a smile, but he did not say anything. He only gave her a gentle push, and the rope of the swing swayed slightly. Mu Yaja. She suddenly moved her lips and spoke. Du Jiayan looked for me today, Yun Shishir said slowly. Chapter 937. He's looking for you. Mu Yaja furrowed his brows. Did you do those things? Yun Shishir probed. Mu Yaja did not say anything, but he knew what she was referring to. He did not say anything, but he did not deny it either. The swing slowly came to a stop. Mu Yaja stood behind her quietly. Yun Shishir said again, let the Du family off. He grabbed her chin. His eyes were cold, and his voice was cold. Why? Are you feeling sorry for him? No. Why would I feel sorry for him? Yun Shishir laughed. I just think that if it's a punishment, it's already heavy enough. You don't have to force him to a dead end, right? Mu Yaja snorted. Humph. You stupid woman, you're so kind. You're forgiving him just like that. I'm forgiving him, but I didn't say that I'm forgiving Huang Lily. I won't ask what you do to Huang Lily, but the Du family is innocent, Yun Shishir said sincerely. Mu Yaja looked at her clear and charming eyes. He suddenly lowered his head and sealed her red lips. He pressed his lips against hers and said in a low voice, okay. I promise you that I'll let him off. Yun Shishir pecked him on the lips. He said, but I won't let that woman off. She pursed her lips but did not say anything. She would not forgive that woman either. After all, Huang Lily was really despicable. She was not generous enough to forgive someone who had hurt her so wantonly. Yu Yu had finished preparing dinner. He had specially made red braised pork for dinner tonight. However, when Yun Shishir sat at the table, she looked at the greasy meat on the plate and smelled it. She suddenly felt disgusted. She forced herself to hold it in. Her face was already showing signs of discomfort. Mommy, I specially made braised pork for you. It's your favorite. Yu Yu smiled gently and was very considerate. Yun Shishir nodded. She picked up her chopsticks and picked up a piece of meat. She suppressed the nausea and put the meat into her mouth. She took a bite, and the fresh meat juice overflowed in her mouth. The nausea grew stronger. Her shoulders shuddered, and she had no choice but to spit the meat out. Yu Yu frowned. Mommy, what's wrong? Mommy really liked the braised pork he made. Why was she acting so weird today? Could it be that he wasn't performing well and his cooking wasn't good? Yu Yu did not believe her and took a bite. It was fresh and fragrant. It was delicious. Then why did Mommy spit the meat out? Yu Yu suddenly felt hurt. Yun Shishir saw his hurt face and immediately said, Yu, you cooked very well. Then Mommy doesn't seem to have much of an appetite today. Yu Yu added, that's right. Mommy's appetite hasn't been good recently. I don't know why, so I made braised pork to adjust her appetite. Yun Shusher was afraid that Yu Yu would be upset. She picked up the meat in the bowl. However, when she looked down and saw the delicious glow of the braised pork, she could not eat it no matter how delicious it was. Just thinking about it made her shiver. She covered her mouth and ran to the bathroom. She threw herself beside the toilet and retched. Mu Yaja walked to the bathroom. Seeing her in such a sorry state, his gaze changed. What's wrong? Yun Shusher did not have time to reply to him. She retched again. Mu Yaja suddenly thought of something. Her symptoms seemed like she was pregnant. Yu Yu and Xiao Chen ran over worriedly. Seeing Yun Shusher retching, Yu Yu was especially nervous. His little hands tugged at the corner of his shirt. He was very worried. Chapter 938. Mommy isn't feeling well. You guys eat first. Mu Yaja waved the two little munchkins aside. Yu Yu pouted unwillingly but still obediently returned to the dining table with Xiao Chen. However, she had lost her appetite. After vomiting for a while, she picked up the gargle cup to rinse her mouth. Mu Yaja walked to her side. The mirror reflected the strange smile on his lips. What's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Mu Yaja. Yun Shusher pursed her lips and looked embarrassed. I feel that something is wrong. What's wrong? He asked in a low voice. However, Yun Shusher did not see the happiness in his eyes. Yun Shusher blushed. She looked up at him and asked awkwardly, previously, when you were doing that, did you do what? He seemed to be provoking her as his handsome face inched closer. That, Yun Shusher pursed her lips again. She was embarrassed and annoyed at the same time. How could this man be so evil? He was obviously teasing her. She pursed her lips and did not speak. Her face was red and embarrassed, and she looked very innocent. Did you use any safety measures? No. Did you put it all inside? Yun Shusher's voice was so soft that it was almost inaudible. Mu Yaja felt that her expression was very interesting. He couldn't help but peck her cheek gently. Are you pregnant? I don't know. But I don't have much of an appetite recently. Moreover, I often vomit in the morning. My period hasn't come for a long time. Her voice became softer as she spoke. Mu Yaja raised his eyebrows. His pupils dilated slightly and the corners of his lips lifted slightly. The two of them formed a stark contrast. One was happy and the other was worried. Yun Shusher did not notice the change in Mu Yaja's expression. She continued, if I'm pregnant, it'll be bad. Mu Yaja's lips turned cold. Yun Shusher pushed him unhappily. It's all your fault. Why didn't you take any precautions? She muttered and threw herself at him. Mu Yaja frowned and asked, why do you need to take precautions? Because I don't want to get pregnant. Yun Shusher said matter-of-factly. You don't want to give birth? The smile on Mu Yaja's face disappeared. Her words were like a bucket of cold water poured over him. His face turned completely cold. He suddenly turned her body around and grabbed her chin. His tone was slightly unhappy and dangerous. What's wrong? You don't? This woman said that she didn't want to get pregnant, or did she not want to have his child? Yun Shusher saw the dangerous aura in his eyes. She was a little scared, but she said, I don't want to get pregnant at this time. Besides, she already had Xiao Chen and Yu Yu. These two babies were enough. Mu Yaja narrowed his eyes. He was in a good mood to have his child, but she looked very distressed. Naturally, he was unhappy. I don't care if you want to or not. His domineering attitude was obvious at this moment. Yun Shusher pursed her lips. I might be pregnant. Mu Yaja did not allow her to say anything. He grabbed her hand and looked like he was going to walk out. Yun Shusher struggled. She was a little shocked. She thought that he was going to do something. She was alert. What are you doing? What are you doing? going to the hospital," he said, not allowing her to resist. Chapter 939. His arrival alerted the deputy director who was on duty. He rushed over with a group of people and waited for him at the door. Mu Yaja put his arm around Yun Shusher's shoulder. He glanced at them and said, "Give her a checkup. Remember, there's no room for mistakes." Once he gave the order, his subordinates naturally carried it out without any hesitation. After a series of tests, the doctor read the report and said, "Chairman Mu, the test results are out. She's not pregnant." "Not pregnant?" Mu Yaja raised his eyebrows. He was obviously surprised by this result. Yun Shusher was equally surprised. She was shocked at first, but then her heart calmed down. Mu Yaja glanced at her, the displeasure in his heart reaching its peak. "Then, why have I been retching recently? What's going on? Also, my period hasn't come for a long time." The doctor replied, "Retching is usually caused by superficial gastritis. It's related to weak stomach qi and heat. You should pay more attention to your diet and avoid raw, cold, and spicy foods. We'll see how it goes. As for your period not coming, it's probably due to an endocrine imbalance." His tone was cautious and respectful. "May I know if you've been working late?" "Yes." Yun Shusher nodded. Recently, she had been working late to film and catch up with the schedule. It wasn't that filming was tiring, but sometimes she had to wait on the set even if she didn't have any scenes. "If you mind, it's best to work and rest regularly. Otherwise, an endocrine imbalance will cause your period to be delayed." The doctor gave her a lot of advice again. However, Mu Yaja's expression was completely cold. On the way back, his expression was cold and he didn't say a word. Yun Shusher couldn't help but laugh in her heart. "Why? Are you disappointed that I'm not pregnant?" Mu Yaja looked straight ahead. It was more than just disappointment. In short, Yun Shusher was naturally happy that she wasn't pregnant. After the filming, there would be a long promotional period and they would need to do roadshows all over the country. She stole a glance at him. Seeing his cold expression, she felt a little helpless. That night, just as she lay on the bed, Mu Yaja's tall body covered her. Yun Shusher was startled. She saw his handsome face close to hers. His eyes were unfathomable, but they were filled with turbulence. She retreated slightly until her back was against the headboard of the bed. However, he closed in on her step by step, like a hunter who was determined to win. Yun Shusher pursed her lips and became even more alert. What are you doing?" Mu Yaja blew a breath of air on her cheek. He was as charming as an orchid. "Do what I love to do." Swish. Yun Shusher's face immediately turned hot. It was so red that it looked like it was dripping blood. This man, how could he calmly say such words that made her blush? Mu Yaja pressed her forehead, pinched her waist with his big palm, and his thin lips outlined a charming and hopeless arc. "You say, should I work harder? What's there to work for?" a certain man said evilly. "When the flowers bloom, they bear fruit." The flowers bloomed, in the end. Gosh, what a connotation. Yun Shusher's face was unreasonably hot. Covering her face, she felt that this man could be really evil sometimes. "I don't want to give birth anymore." Yun Shusher's face fell. "I already have you and Xiaoyi Chen. Not enough." Chapter 940. Yun Shusher struggled, but Mu Yaja would not allow her to escape. His large palm pressed against her waist, and her entire body was pressed against his. A certain part of their bodies was pressed tightly against each other. Yun Shusher pursed her lips. "Let's have another daughter." His gaze was clear, and he did not allow her to object. His thin lips pressed against hers. Yun Shusher's protest was completely drowned out by his aggressive kiss. That night, Mu Yaja was especially hard-working. Outside the door, the two little lads tiptoed and pressed their ears against the door, eavesdropping on the secret behind the door. The two of them looked at each other. One of them was puzzled, while the other was blushing and speechless. Yu Yu. Xiao Yichen gently poked Yu Yu's waist and whispered into his ear, "What are daddy and mommy doing?" Yu Yu already had a guilty conscience. When Xiao Yichen suddenly pressed against him, he was shocked and patted his chest. Then, he gave him a disdainful slap on his face and pushed him away. "This is philosophy. You don't understand." Xiao Yichen was dumbfounded. He pressed against him again. "Then do you understand?" Yu Yu cleared his throat. His face was a little red as he turned around and went back to the room. Xiao Yichen followed behind him and closed the door. He smiled and asked, "Yu Yu, then, what does blooming and bearing fruit mean?" "I'm not telling you." Tell me. You're so smart. You should know what it means." Actually, Yu Yu did not really understand the meaning of blooming and bearing fruit. However, in front of Xiao Yichen, he had to pretend that he knew everything. I won't tell you. Yu Yu pursed her lips and deliberately kept her in suspense. Xiao Yichen was a little angry. She pushed him onto the bed and reached out to pinch his waist. She pinched his sensitive spots and started to attack him from both sides. Yu Yu couldn't take it anymore. She was about to laugh out loud. Tell me, Mu Yichen. Ha ha ha. Let go of me." Xiao Yichen enjoyed the sight of Yu Yu begging for mercy under his body with satisfaction. This was a tried and tested trick. Yu Yu was the least ticklish. Mu Yichen. Ha ha ha. No more. It's so itchy. Ha ha ha. The commotion was so loud that it alarmed the two people in the master bedroom. Yun Shishir glanced at Mu Yaja and laughed. "The two of you haven't slept yet. Don't bother about them." Mu Yaja was unhappy that her attention was on something else. He lowered his head and sealed her soft lips. Thus, the room was filled with romance. The Mu residence. Mu Wanru paced back and forth in the study. She did not dare to go out now because she knew that no matter where she went, Mu Yanjue would send people to follow her. Aaron's death the last time was undoubtedly a warning to her. After interacting with him for a while, she knew that he would not like others to go against his plans and act on their own. In this aspect, he was very similar to Mu Yaja. Her private meeting with Aaron that day had undoubtedly angered him. However, even if he had a card up his sleeve, Mu Wanru still felt uneasy. The media conference was imminent. Mu Yaja had already arranged everything. In another week's time, there would be a grand press conference to announce their marriage. However, after a psychological battle, Mu Wanru suddenly realized that this media conference might not be as simple as it seemed. What about Yun Shishir? Chapter 941. Why was Mu Yanjue still not taking action to get rid of these two scourges? Mu Wanru was, without a doubt, in a state of panic. She felt that Mu Yanjue could not be trusted completely. Just as she was feeling anxious, there was a sudden knock on the door. The sudden movement almost scared Mu Wanru out of her wits. The servant pushed the door open and was startled to see her pale face. "Young madam. Are you trying to scare me to death?" Mu Wanru's eyes were sharp and her tone was frosty. The servant shrunk her shoulders in fright and did not dare to breathe loudly. She did knock on the door and thought that there was no one in the study, so she came in to clean it. "Get out." Yes, the servant didn't dare to show any signs of disobedience and retreated in fear. Mu Wanru walked to the window and looked at the gloomy weather outside. She secretly decided that if Mu Yanjue still did not take action, she would quickly take action to get rid of Yun Shishir and Yun Tianyu. It was getting late, but Yun Shishir was still not back. Mu Yaja had specially reminded Lin Fengtian that the filming could not be delayed so late. Usually, she would be back at 5:30 p.m. at the latest, but there was still no sign of her today. Mu Yaja found it strange. He called her phone, but it was switched off. It was probably out of battery. After waiting for a while, it started to rain outside. It was almost 7 p.m., but there was still no sign of her. Yu Yu and Xiao Yichen sat at the dining table. They refused to have dinner and insisted on waiting for their mommy to return. Mu Yaja was a little distraught, afraid that she would meet with an accident on the way back. With the Mu group's influence, they had many enemies. Due to the fierce competition for business interests, they had many enemies, including many gang leaders. This was also the reason why he did not want Yun Shishir to step into the entertainment industry. Could it be that she was in danger? Mu Yaja could no longer sit still at the thought of this. He stood up and walked toward the door, wanting to call his assistant to settle some matters. However, just as he was about to change his clothes, the door was flung open. Yun Shishir rushed into the bathroom with a cardboard box in her arms. Her face was full of smiles, and she looked very happy. Mu Yaja was fuming. Where exactly did this woman go and come back? However, when he stormed into the bathroom, he saw Yun Shishir standing on the spot, drenched from head to toe. She carefully held a small cardboard box. Inside the box was a drenched puppy. A puppy? Why did she bring a puppy back? Yu and Xiao Yichen walked over and saw the puppy. Both of them loved small animals, especially newborn puppies. They could not resist it. Hence, they surrounded the cardboard box and stared at the puppy. Yun Shishir looked even happier when she saw him. Her eyes lit up as she raised the cardboard box in her hands as though she was presenting a treasure. She smiled and said, Mu Yaja, look. A puppy. Mu Yaja could not help but raise his eyebrows. I recognize this as a puppy. Where did you get it? Yun Shishir giggled as she spun and jumped around with the box in her arms. I picked it up from the roadside. Look, isn't it cute? It's so cute. As she spoke, she walked over to him with the cardboard box in her arms. Yu and Xiao Yichen followed behind her. Xiao Yichen, in particular, stood on his tiptoes to look at the puppy. Chapter 942. Yu glanced at him from the corner of his eyes and sneered, yes, it's so much like you. You. Xiao Yichen was so angry that he pouted and glared at him. The puppy was silly and didn't know what was going on. It lay there aggrievedly and didn't know how to act cute to get a good impression of it or whimper to ask for sympathy. It only looked at the man pitifully with its innocent but slightly resentful black eyes. The puppy was drenched from head to toe in the rain. Who knew how many days it had been since it last showered? It was extremely dirty. However, that pair of eyes gave him an inexplicable sense of familiarity. When he saw the woman's bright eyes again, he frowned helplessly. Yun Shishir smiled and said, what do you think? Isn't this puppy cute? Mu Yaja, let's adopt it. No way. Mu Yaja rejected her without thinking. He reached out and pinched the puppy's ear with his orchid fingers. He glared at her and said, we already have one at home. We can't afford to raise a second one. As soon as he pinched its ears, the puppy began to howl in panic. It was obvious that it had received a great shock. We can't afford to raise it. Yun Shishir choked on his earth-shattering words. However, she suddenly realized that something was wrong with his words. She followed his gaze and looked at herself up and down. Only then did she realize who he was referring to when he said he already had one at home. She said angrily, hey. Didn't we agree not to make personal attacks? If you like it, I'll take you to a famous pet store tomorrow and buy you a decent poodle. This puppy was really too dirty. Mu Yaja tugged at the puppy's ears again. The poor puppy felt extremely wronged after being teased like this. It whined a few times with tears in its eyes and shrank back into the box. Xiao Yichen's heart ached. He immediately took the cardboard box from Yun Shishir's arms and looked down at the puppy lovingly. Daddy, don't bully it. Yun Shishir slapped his fingers away from the puppy and grumpily said, I like this one. I don't like the others. If you don't want to raise it, I'll raise it. Anyway, I've decided. You like this dirty puppy that much? Mu Yaja raised his eyebrows at her and asked. Yun Shishir said angrily, what's dirty? It's just that it's not showering. After it showers, I guarantee that its snowy white body will be cleaner than yours. Oh. Mu Yaja's interest was piqued. He chen his eyes and his eyes. I'd like to see how you're going to wash this brown hair white. Yun Shishir was momentarily speechless. This man was really good at picking holes in other people's words. She lowered her head and looked at the pitiful puppy. Her heart ached a little. She reached out and touched the puppy's wet fur. It wasn't that she was being kind. It was just that she had found this abandoned puppy on the side of the road when she and Han Mushi had gone to buy ice cream during their lunch break. She had only taken a glance at it and thought that this puppy was quite pitiful. She thought that there would be kind-hearted people who would pick it up in the afternoon. Thus, she went back to work at the company. Chapter 943. She ran to the side of the street again, but the puppy was still there. Perhaps it was too dirty, so no one was willing to spend the effort to take it in. Perhaps the dog had some infectious disease. Now that the standard of living was high, even if someone wanted to raise a dog, they could spend a few hundred yuan to buy one. It was better than picking one up from the roadside. Perhaps it was because the dog hadn't eaten for a day, or 2 days, or even longer, that it was so hungry that it kept barking. Its pair of dark eyes were misty with tears, and it was so pitiful that it was whimpering. This dog was still too small. The cardboard box was still quite tall, and such a small dog was trapped inside. When it saw Yun Shishir, its 2 small paws scratched the box, but it couldn't jump out. If no one picked it up, it would probably starve to death. Yun Shishir didn't care if the dog had some infectious disease. She complained about the dog's owner's heartless heart as she carried the box around to look for food. After feeding it some food, she thought to herself that she should let the dog go. After all, the person at home was a serious germaphobe. But it was raining heavily, and it would be wet all night. That would be really pitiful. Moreover, the dog was still so small. What if it was accidentally run over while crossing the road? When she fed the dog, its small tongue licked her fingertips. It was soft, as if it was trying to please her, and also as if it was grateful. This little guy's teeth weren't fully grown yet. She suddenly thought of herself when she was young. She had also been abandoned in the orphanage, just like the dog. No one cared about her, and she had no one to rely on. Thus, her heart began to ache. Following that, with her head bleeding and the dog in her arms, Yun Shishir fearlessly returned with the dog in her arms. At that moment, her expression was like that of a revolutionary martyr. Anyway, I'm going to raise this dog. How about it? Anyway, I won't throw it away. It's so pitiful. If I throw it away, it will die. There was a hint of a threat in her words. Mu Yaja coldly sized up the woman and dog in front of him. When did this woman become so bold? Yun Shishir saw that he was sizing her up, but she was not afraid. She puffed up her chest and snorted coldly to show her determination. Mu Yaja was helpless and said coolly, "It's not impossible to raise them." Before he could finish his sentence, Yun Shishir jumped 3 feet high and cheered loudly, "Hee hee. Mu Yaja, you're the best." Mu Yaja's face immediately turned ashen. He had heard that pets carried a lot of germs. Was it possible to be so close to pets? What if he had a disease? Has this dog been vaccinated? Is your body healthy? You only know how to bring it back. Mu Yaja saw that she was about to approach him with the dog in her arms. He quickly took a few steps back without leaving a trace. His expression was not the usual kind of disdain. But there are 3 rules. Yun Shishir nodded without thinking. Her pair of sparkling eyes were like that of a doted puppy. One had to know that a clean freak like him was willing to take in this dirty puppy. It was already a great gift. The dog in the cardboard box also poked its small head out. Its pair of black eyes stared at Mu Yaja. It blinked, feeling wronged and sad. It sized him up and tilted its head from time to time. Chapter 944. This dog was brought back by Yun Shishir. She was also the one who said that she wanted to raise it. Naturally, the dog's daily life was left to Yun Shusher to take care of. For the sake of hygiene, this dog had to be raised on the second floor. Its nest could only be placed there and it could not take a step downstairs. Even its meals could only be eaten on the second floor. Naturally, the showers and dog food were all Yun Shusher's business. Other than that, he could not find any dog hair in the house. He could not see any dog paw prints on the first floor, not to mention excrement. If he saw it, he would slap it 50 times. Anyway, the rules were very simple. Under his watch, this dog could not be seen. If Yun Shusher wanted to play with the dog, she had to go to the second floor. Yun Shusher, on the other hand, was a little unhappy. How was this a 3-point agreement? It was almost 30. She muttered under her breath, how heartless. Are you a dog's father, too? Muyaja glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. With a noble and cold expression, he said, my genes are very normal. I can't give birth to a dog. Yun Shusher choked again. She lowered her head, patted the dog's head, and said, come, call me daddy. The puppy seemed to understand Yun Shusher's words. It looked at Muyaja as if it understood. How could such a small puppy know how to bark? At this time, it could only whimper. Facing Muyaja's direction, the puppy opened its small mouth and whimpered pitifully again. Then, it ended with a big yawn. Muyaja was speechless. Muyaja, look, your son is begging you. Don't be so harsh. As it spoke, it reached out to scratch Muyaja's clothes. Muyaja remembered that the hand had touched the dog just now. Hence, he felt disgusted again. He moved far away and said coldly, don't touch me if you don't wash your hands. Yun Shusher said. Baby, your daddy is disgusted with us. Baby? Right, is it a male or female? Male. Are you sure it's male? I've seen it before. Yun Shusher was still worried. She picked up the dog again and touched its penis with her fingertips. A certain man immediately said fiercely, don't touch. Damn it, what if this dog has some kind of germs on it? Mommy, let's take it to the pet hospital for a bath and check if it's sick. You suggested. So, after the family of 4 finished eating, they drove the dog all the way to the pet club. When they rushed over, they were just about to close the door and go home. When they saw Yun Shusher rushing over with the dog, they hurriedly said, hey, miss, I'm sorry. Our shop is closed. Ha! Help me take a bath. While you're at it, you can also get a vaccine or something. Yun Shusher said with a smile. The shop owner was dumbfounded. He had to come here to take a bath. He didn't know if such a small dog could take a bath. Besides, couldn't the vaccine be done tomorrow? Moreover, this dog was so small and dirty. It looked like it had just been picked up. They had to wait for it to adapt to the environment before giving it an injection. Just as the shop owner was about to decline, a tall figure suddenly appeared behind Yun Shusher. Muyaja stood behind her with a frosty expression. His eyes were as sharp as ice blades. When he saw that the shop owner was about to close, his face darkened. He seemed to be very dissatisfied with the shop owner's actions. Hence, he snorted coldly. Open the door. Oh my God. Chapter 945. The owner was so frightened by his gaze that his whole body shivered. He didn't even dare to question or refute. He turned around and fiddled with the door lock. He secretly cursed in his heart. Did this man have to be so fierce? Look at that gaze, it was as if he owed him millions. He was just opening a pet club. He wouldn't have offended anyone, right? What a scary man. Could it be that he's part of a gang? If he didn't open the door, was he going to shoot him? Thus, a certain owner who was about to go home for dinner was forced to stay in the shop and began to work hard to check the dog. Fortunately, although the dog was abandoned, it had all 4 limbs and was very healthy. It was already more than 3 months old. However, the breed of dogs was small, so this dog wouldn't grow much bigger. It was a cute little Pomeranian. It had caught a slight cold because it was caught in the rain. After bathing the dog, trimming its hair, giving it a shot of vaccine and deworming, it was done. Yun Shishir carried the clean puppy and looked left and right. The puppy was adorable after its bath. It had a pair of big, bright eyes, beautiful fur, and pointy ears. It was very cute. This time, she was finally satisfied. Muyaja threw down the money and was about to leave, but the owner was an honest man. Seeing that the money was too much, he couldn't help but say kindly, "Sir, you gave a little too much money." Muyaja suddenly turned around and glared at him. "Take it. Don't talk nonsense." The owner was smart again. He was just short of answering a general's order in the army. Li Zheng slightly relaxed. Yes. On this end, Yun Shishir was satisfied. Since the dog was well, she was naturally in a good mood. She bought some cute supplies from the pet club and busied herself on the second floor for a long time before she finished decorating the kennel. Yun Shishir looked at the kennel she had decorated and felt that it was very warm. Thus, she happily put the puppy in. At first, the dog wasn't used to it, but after a while, it got used to it and liked the bedroom Yun Shishir decorated. Thus, she excitedly fed it. She busied herself for half a day on the second floor, fiddling with it for a long time before she reluctantly walked down. Just as she walked down the stairs, Yun Shishir heard the dog's uneasy barking. It seemed that it had lost its sense of security after leaving Yun Shishir, or it was afraid of the dark like Yun Shishir. In short, it was restless. Yun Shishir was also flustered by the puppy's pitiful cries. She turned back to look at it 3 times with every step. In the end, she could not bear it any longer and ran toward the kennel, shouting, "Little Zhizha." Little Zhizha, that seemed to be the name she gave to this puppy. Muyaja, who was sitting on the sofa and reading the financial newspaper, could not help but turn ashen. This woman, did she have to give the dog such a name? It was really ear-piercing to him. Yun Shishir stayed on the second floor and didn't come down. Muyaja was a little dissatisfied. He thought sourly in his heart that he was regretting taking in this damn male dog. This woman was too much. She only had so little time after work, and now she gave it all to this stupid dog. He didn't know what was so good about this damn dog. Was it as handsome as him? Was it as rich as him? Was it as charming as him? Chapter 946. Muyaja gritted his teeth and thought, find a chance, oh no, when Yun Shishir wasn't around, he would kick this stupid dog out. So that it wouldn't interfere with his private life. After a long time, Yun Shishir reluctantly walked downstairs. She saw Muyaja sitting on the sofa, looking a little unhappy. She seemed to have thought of something, so she sat beside him with a smile and leaned on him coquettishly. Muyaja couldn't help but glance at this little woman coldly. Why? Did this woman finally know how to be grateful to him? She also knew that she had neglected him. She also knew how to curry favor with him. How could he not know what this little woman was thinking, so he pretended to be indifferent and didn't look at her. His voice was cold and emotionless. What's the matter? Muyaja. I have something to tell you. She sounded so intimate when she called the dog's name, but she sounded so distant when she called him. Muyaja felt a little sour because of this. It couldn't be anything good for her to say. Could it be that she had to do something to compensate him? Seeing that Muyaja didn't speak, Yun Shishir simply said bluntly, let's hire a nanny for the dog. When Muyaja heard this, the corners of his eyes suddenly twitched violently. Hire a nanny for the dog? He thought that this woman's thoughts were easy to understand, but now he had seen it for himself. A woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the ocean. Seeing that his face was getting gloomier, Yun Shishir was a little puzzled. She didn't know what this man was thinking. His expression was so ugly. She didn't seem to have said anything wrong. So she didn't care about him and told him her doubts. Here's what I think. Think about it, there are usually only the 2 of us in this apartment. You usually have to go to the office, and I have to go to work. The dog is so small, and there's no one to take care of it. Why don't we hire a nanny? Mu Yaja glared at her coldly. He looked away childishly and snorted. Waste of money. Waste of money. Yun Shishir was shocked. Her delicate body trembled, and her mouth opened into a big O shape. Waste of money. This word actually came out of the mouth of a nouveau riche who had always been a spendthrift. This kind of feeling was too strong. It was too shocking. Yun Shishir felt very unconvinced. Thus, she made another good suggestion. Since that's the case, I'll have to trouble you to take care of it for a while. When you go to the office, bring it with you. The man snorted. I'm sorry, I'm very busy. She couldn't help but worry, she couldn't help but hold on her face, muttered, ah, that little Zhizha is it at home, will starve to death s's stsss. Yun Shishir pushed him away unhappily and said seriously, Little Zhizha, this name is so cute. Doesn't it sound familiar? As she spoke, she hugged him and kissed his cheek. Young Master Mu's Cold's handsome face was suddenly dyed with a strange red. He glared at her coldly again, only to see Yun Shishir pointing at his face in surprise. Mu Yaja, you're actually blushing. A certain man became even angrier. Shut up. Feeling that murderous gaze, Yun Shishir was instantly intimidated. She sat on the sofa obediently and didn't dare to move. Send the dog away before tomorrow night. Chapter 947. Why? I don't like dogs. But I like it. Mu Yaja turned to face her with a dangerous glint in his eyes. Choose between me and it. Yun Shishir said without hesitation, I choose little Zhizha. Stupid woman, you said it. I'll kick this stupid dog out of the house tomorrow. After saying that, he stood up. Yun Shishir watched as Mu Yaja walked into the study and slammed the door loudly. She couldn't help but be amused by him. Was this man jealous? How childish of him to be so serious with a puppy. Speaking of which, he had made an agreement with Yun Shishir. Young Master Mu had said that no matter what, that stupid dog couldn't come downstairs. But today, this rule was broken by a certain woman. Early in the morning, Mu Yaja opened his eyes and met a pair of blinking dog eyes. After being stunned for a moment, he was completely stunned. That stupid dog saw that he was stunned and found it interesting, so it stuck out its pink and tender tongue and licked the tip of his nose. This lick caused trouble. Mu Yaja's morning temper and his misophobic eyes exploded. His hands immediately grabbed the dog's neck tightly. Ruthlessly ravaged. When he thought that dogs couldn't change their habit of eating shit, he thought of that especially dirty tongue. But now, this stupid dog actually used such a dirty tongue to lick him. Damn it. The dog's neck was choked by him just like that. Although he didn't use much strength, it was such a small dog after all. This bit of strength was enough to make it suffer. Therefore, in addition to being frightened, they let out a series of tragic howls. The dog mother who heard the news was still making breakfast when she saw the man and dog staring at each other. She was nervous and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Without thinking, she rushed over to save the puppy that was in deep trouble. She slapped the man hard and said angrily, Mu Yaja. Let go of me. I'm going to die. It took a lot of effort to separate them. Yun Shishir hugged the dog, who was about to roll his eyes, and said angrily, Mu Yaja. What are you doing? Why was he so ruthless? If I came a step later, little Ju would have been strangled to death by you. Mu Yaja glared at her and snorted coldly. Just in time. Let's have dog stew tonight. Yun Shishir murmured, how can you be so vicious? It seemed that not only was this man's mouth poisonous, his heart was poisonous as well. Mu Yaja looked straight at her, squinted his eyes, and said faintly, I clearly remember, we have agreed on 3 points. This dog cannot come downstairs. When Yun Shishir heard this, she couldn't help but feel guilty. She stuck out her tongue, turned around, and ran away. When Muyaja sat at the dining table, the dog had already been coaxed upstairs by Yunshushu. The man didn't seem to be in a good mood. Oh, that wasn't important. What was important was that he didn't vent his anger on her. Yunshushu also knew that she had indeed gone overboard. She saw that the dog was so cute, clean, and fragrant. She wanted to take the opportunity to build a good relationship between the father and son. In the end, she didn't expect Muyaja's misophobia to act up. It was too scary. Chapter 948. Muyaja glanced at her coldly from the corner of his eyes. He narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, "I think you've misunderstood something." Yunshushu was stunned. What? It's not that I dislike dogs. I just don't like dogs at all. Of course, dog meat is an exception. After he said that, he glanced at Yunshushu meaningfully. His words were actually a little threatening. But to be honest, he really didn't eat dog meat. At most, he was just scaring a certain silly woman. Yunshushu was obviously frightened by his words. She quickly said, "What are you doing? What evil intentions do you have? You're not going to do anything to little Zhe, are you?" Muyaja raised his eyebrows. "I haven't done anything yet. If I eat it, what can you do?" Yunshushu was a straightforward person. In her anxiety, she said something shocking. "Damn it! I'll eat you." Muyaja was stunned. Then, he revealed a teasing and devilish smile. "Alright, I'd like to see how you're going to eat me." Yunshushu did not react to his words at first, but when she saw the playful look in his eyes, no matter how stupid she was, she finally understood what he meant. A strange blush crept up her cheeks, and she turned her face away in embarrassment and anger, refusing to look at him again. Muyaja thought that this woman was really too cute. She was even cuter than a dog. He hadn't even done anything yet, and she was already blushing. Thinking about that, he couldn't help but chuckle. Seeing him laugh, Yunshushu felt even more unnatural. Thus, she stuffed a piece of bread into his mouth and said with a frown, "Eat your breakfast. Go to work after you're done." After breakfast, Yunshushu stood at the door with the puppy and the pet kennel. She looked at Muyaja, who was wearing a suit leisurely. She opened her mouth to say something but stopped herself. It wasn't until Muyaja walked to the door and glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. Just as he was about to leave, Yunshushu finally threw caution to the wind and spoke. "That," Muyaja stopped in his tracks and started to nitpick. "Who's that?" Yunshushu was at a loss for words. She was stunned for half a second before she corrected herself, "Zhe." It was rare for them to call each other so intimately. Muyaja was satisfied with this title. Seeing the smile on his face, Yunshushu hurriedly walked forward and said with a smile, "Zhe, my company doesn't allow dogs." Muyaja's attitude was very indifferent. "Oh, so?" Yunshushu pointed at the dog. "Do you think you can do it?" Muyaja turned around and looked at her thoughtfully. Then he said coldly, "My company also prohibits employees from bringing pets." Yunshushu hurriedly walked forward and tidied his tie and clothes. She blinked her eyes and pretended to be cute. She pouted and said coquettishly, "Muyaja, you're the boss anyway. You're the big boss. No one dares to say anything if you bring a pet." Muyaja narrowed his eyes and said, "The company's CEO is taking the lead to violate the rules and regulations?" Yunshushu was speechless. She clicked her tongue. "Is it that serious?" Muyaja said, "Yes." Yunshushu was a little sympathetic. "That's because you're not imposing enough. Under normal circumstances, even if the boss brings a lion, tiger, elephant, or even a woman to work, the employees wouldn't dare to bring a little hamster." Muyaja said, "Women are pets too." Yunshushu said, "Little Zhe isn't a pet either. He's your son." Chapter 949. Yunshushu's coaxing and pestering were all to no avail. She hugged the dog and refused to let go. If she really left the dog alone at home, it would definitely starve to death. How could she bear to see the puppy suffer at such a young age? Hence, she clenched her teeth and grabbed the corner of Muyaja's shirt pitifully. She shook the corner of his shirt and said, "Daddy," her words had hit the nail on the head. Muyaja turned his head slowly and glanced at her. Yun Shishir pursed her lips and made up her mind. She raised the dog in front of him and said, "Take it in for a while." I'll agree to one condition." Muyaja looked at her for 3 seconds and suddenly asked, "Anything?" Yun Shishir nodded vigorously. Muyaja said, "One is not enough. I want 3. Yun Shishir's eyes widened in astonishment. "Why are you still bargaining?" Muyaja raised his eyebrows. "Why? You don't want to." After that, he pretended to leave. Yun Shishir hurriedly pulled him back. She gritted her teeth and said, "Fine. 3 it is. You have to treat it well. You're not allowed to starve it or hit it." Muyaja did not reply, which meant that he had agreed. "Send it to my car." Yun Shishir giggled and carried the dog into the car. Her eagerness finally made Muyaja lose his composure. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. Muyaja first sent Yun Shishir to the company. When he arrived at the company, the security guard opened the car door. Muyaja threw the keys into his hand and asked him to park the car as usual. When he got out of the car, he seemed to have thought of something. He turned around and instructed the security guard, "Send that stupid dog to my office." "Yes. CEO Mu." When Minyu escorted the puppy to the CEO's office, it attracted a lot of attention. Special Assistant Min, is that a puppy you're holding? Isn't it forbidden to bring pets to work? Special Assistant Min, you're taking the lead in violating the company's rules. Minyu replied, "This is the CEO's dog. He asked me to bring it to the office." As soon as he said that, the employees instantly changed their expressions and exclaimed, "Oh, not only is Chairman Mu handsome, even his puppy is so cute." Yes. What a cute dog. I didn't expect President Mu to be so kind. I heard that men who like small animals must be very gentle inside. Minyu fell silent. Little Zhizhe was sent to the CEO's office. In the morning, Muyaja had 2 board meetings. Naturally, Minyu had to follow him and take notes. Before the meeting, Minyu fed the puppy some water. Little Zhizhe was obviously frightened to be in an unfamiliar environment. Its whole body was trembling. It raised its small and cute head and looked at Minyu as if he was a demon king. Its body was trembling even more. When it saw the water that Minyu gave it, it twitched its nose vigilantly. After sniffing for a long time, it stuck out its pink tongue and licked it a few times. Patter, patter, Minyu saw how cute it was and couldn't help but reach out to touch it. Little Zhizhe shrank back in shock. However, when it realized that Minyu didn't seem to have any bad intentions, it squinted its eyes and licked Minyu's fingers a few times. The puppy's teeth weren't fully grown yet. It didn't feel much pain when it bit Minyu's hand. It just felt itchy and numb. Minyu's heart was about to melt. "Oh, it's so cute. Special Assistant Min, the meeting is about to start." An assistant knocked on the door and reminded him. Chapter 950. Seeing that he had left, Little Zhizhe panicked. It was all alone in such a large and unfamiliar environment. It immediately screamed helplessly and sadly a few times. Seeing that no one was paying attention to it, it whimpered sadly for a long time. "Awoo, awoo." It covered its mouth and cried like a baby. Seeing that no one was paying attention to it, Little Zhizhe curled up in a corner and closed its eyes. Not long after, it woke up again and stood up clumsily. Its 2 chubby little paws rested on the edge of the box, and its 2 little legs rubbed against the box as if it wanted to climb out and explore this unknown and mysterious world. But, its legs were short, weren't they? It could not climb out no matter how hard it tried. Little Zhizhe suddenly became anxious. It kept whining and jumping around in the kennel. With its efforts, the cardboard box collapsed and it successfully climbed out. It began to walk around leisurely, shaking its butt. It sniffed here and there, and its eyes sparkled with curiosity. This was perhaps the most privileged dog in the world. It could walk around the president's office of Dishing Financial Group so freely. If it were anyone else's dog, they would have been kicked away by Muyaja. But it was different. Yun Shishir had picked it up. Muyaja had tolerated it. However, before going to the meeting, he had specifically told Minyu not to let the dog slip out. Muyaja was a misophobe. His office was very clean, and not a speck of dust was allowed. Every day, the cleaning lady would focus on cleaning his office. But the puppy did not understand. It wandered around to its heart's content, scratching at the expensive leather sofa and gnawing at the corner of Muyaja's solid wood desk, leaving behind a ghastly set of teeth marks. After a while, it ran to the expensive carpet and peed in satisfaction. Now that Muyaja was not around, the huge office was its playground. When it was tired, it stretched out its legs and lay on the floor. However, after a few seconds, it stood up restlessly. Suddenly, it ran to the door and scratched at it eagerly, as if it wanted to go out. But who would care about it now? It seemed to be impatient as its two claws madly scratched the solid wooden door. However, seeing that no one was paying attention to it, it could no longer hold it in. It circled around on the spot, its nose twitching as it constantly made sniffing sounds. Finally, its small body quivered, and it arched its back. Its four limbs moved closer, and its butt trembled violently. Then, with a poof, it defecated a pile of smelly feces. This time, it finally felt comfortable. It spread its claws and walked around a few more times before lying down on the carpet and falling asleep. After the meeting ended, Muyaja walked to the office while giving instructions to Minyu. Just as he pushed the door open and took a step forward, he felt that he had stepped on something soft. His face stiffened and his eyes turned cold. Minyu walked up to him and saw his back stiffened at the door. He was a little surprised. He raised his head and saw his tense and gloomy face. Puzzled, he asked, "President, what's wrong?" Muyaja lifted his leather shoes stiffly. Under his feet was a puddle of poop that he had pampered. Chapter 951. Minyu's face turned green when he saw this. He wanted to laugh but did not dare to. Muyaja was furious. He did not even need to think to know who did this. He stopped at the door and looked around. Soon, he saw the deep claw marks on the leather sofa. Little Zhizha's claws were not flat. They were very sharp and had scratched several places. Muyaja's face turned even darker. However, when he saw the bite marks on the corner of the desk, his face turned gloomy. Minyu was observing from the side. He was so scared that he did not even dare to breathe. Muyaja suddenly turned his head slowly and looked at him coldly. He said in an unfriendly tone, "I remember that I told you not to let that stupid dog out." Minyu lowered his head and said guiltily, "Yes." "Then what's going on?" Muyaja looked at the indescribable marks on his feet. His eyes were sharp and scary. "Give me an explanation." "President, this, stepping on a dick meant that it was lucky." However, he did not dare to say this out loud. But there was no other way. Humans had 3 natural urges, and so did dogs. It was so small. How could it hold it in? He immediately ordered the cleaning auntie to come over and clean it up. Then, he quickly replaced the desk that was bitten by little Zhizha. Even the damaged sofa was replaced. Then, his assistant hurriedly bought a new pair of leather shoes. As for the shoes that had stepped on a dick, they naturally had to be thrown away. Damn stupid dog. Muyaja stood in the office and looked around. However, he could not find any trace of that stupid dog. "Where's the dog?" he asked. Minyu immediately searched everywhere. Finally, he found little Zhizha, who was trembling uneasily in the corner. He brought the puppy in front of Muyaja. Mu Yaja stared at it coldly. He wanted to flare up a few times, but he held it back. The puppy was so small that he even suspected that it would be on the verge of death if he slapped it. Suppressing his anger, he threw it into a corner and punished it. How could little Zhuzh stand still? It blinked its eyes innocently. When Mu Yaja glared at it, it shuddered violently and cried out in fear. Don't shout! Mu Yaja bellowed. Little Zhuzh was so scared that he kept quiet. His whole body trembled as he looked at it. His eyes were watery and he looked so innocent. Can I shit in the office? He questioned. Little Zhuzh tilted his head, as if he did not understand his words. Answer. Under Mu Yaja's cold gaze, the little puppy was so scared that it let out an "woo" sound, and its gaze became timid. Face the wall and reflect on your mistakes. He held it and turned it around so that it faced the wall. Little Zhuzh timidly turned around and stared at him innocently, as if silently accusing him of being rude. For a moment, he actually saw the shadow of Yun Shishir in its bewildered eyes. Many times, she had also stared at him with such eyes. He actually felt a little sorry for it. I'll let you off this time. If there's a next time, his voice came to an abrupt end. His gaze was terrifying and cold. Little Zhuzh was almost paralyzed by his gaze. With a muffled groan, he stood up and threw it back into the kennel. Then, he returned to his desk to deal with his own matters. However, not long after, he felt that something was rubbing against his trousers. Chapter 952. He kicked it to the side impatiently. Even though he didn't use much strength, it still lost its balance and fell backwards, tumbling heavily. Little Zhuzh seemed unwilling to give up. It ran to his side and continued to pull at his trousers with its paws. Mu Yaja kicked it to the side again. Go back to your nest. After being ignored, little Zhuzh began to howl. Each howl was louder than the previous one, and in the end, it actually howled at the top of its lungs. A woo-woo, its howl sounded miserable, as if it was sad that he had ignored it. Mu Yaja finally lost his patience. He lifted it up and placed it on his lap. Thus, it stopped barking and found a place to curl up in the corner of his arms. Slowly, it subconsciously burrowed into his suit jacket. The office was air-conditioned. It obviously felt cold. Mu Yaja's face was so dark that it was unreasonable. What was wrong with him? Why did he promise that stupid woman to bring this stupid dog to work? He couldn't concentrate on his work for the whole day because this stupid dog always seemed to have a way to make him angry. Hence, when Min Yu pushed the door open and entered, he was surprised to see Mu Yaja sitting in front of his desk with a dark face. Boss, Mu Yaja was obviously in an extremely gloomy mood. Min Yu walked over at once, only to see the ignorant puppy in Mu Yaja's arms, sleeping soundly with its 4 paws in the air. Oh God, did this dog want to go to heaven? One must know that Mu Yaja's obsession with cleanliness was known to all. How could he allow a dog to run wild on him? Not only did it fall asleep, but it also seemed to be in a dream. Its 4 claws twitched all of a sudden as it kicked and stained Mu Yaja's white and clean shirt with dust. Min Yu was stunned. Boss, don't you hate dogs the most? If you know, then why don't you take this stupid dog away? Mu Yaja glared at him. Min Yu immediately picked up the dog. Change out of this suit for me. Min Yu immediately ordered his men to buy him a new suit to change into. Your job this afternoon is to take good care of this dog. After Mu Yaja gave the order, he left the room. There was an important meeting in the afternoon. Min Yu carried the puppy with a smile on his face. On this day, Yun Shishir received a call from Jiang Li. Over the phone, Jiang Li stammered as if she wanted to say something but didn't dare to. Yun Shishir laughed and said, Jiang Li, do you have something to say to me? Jiang Li hummed softly, but did not say it immediately. Instead, she mulled over it a few times in her heart. Speaking of which, it was quite ironic. Before the class reunion, when her classmates did not know about Yun Shishir's situation, they all looked down on Yun Shishir. In fact, they even looked down on her. In university, Huang Lili fanned the flames and created rumors that Yun Shishir was a mistress of a rich man outside of school. She said that she was a secret lover that could not be seen in public. Compared to these, there were even more unbearable words. Huang Lili even created rumors that Yun Shishir was a public transport that could be slept with as long as one paid money. She said that 30,000 yuan was enough to keep her for a month. She even warned the boys in school not to be fooled by Yun Shishir's appearance. She said that she looked pure and innocent, but what was the truth? She was very cheap. Chapter 953. Yun Shishir did not know about it, but Jiang Li did. During the period when Yun Shishir was suspended from school, the rumors about her in school were extremely unbearable. Later on, due to an accident, Yun Shishir gave birth to a child out of wedlock. However, it indirectly verified the rumors that Huang Lili had spread. Huang Lili also secretly said that Yun Shishir's child was an illegitimate child, a bastard. So what if it was a son? A bastard child who could not see the light of day would not be acknowledged by wealthy families. Furthermore, no one was willing to be friends with Yun Shishir. Those boys who had pursued Yun Shishir in the past all felt that such a girl was filthy. Some even felt ashamed of having liked Yun Shishir. At first, Jiang Li also believed that Yun Shishir was really a mistress of a rich man. However, unlike others, she was always polite to Yun Shishir. That was because she felt that Yun Shishir was quite pitiful. With such a pitiful heart, Jiang Li often helped her. Since things had turned out this way, Yun Shishir would probably not be able to get married in the future, right? Which man would be willing to marry an 18-year-old girl who gave birth to a child out of wedlock? Many of the female classmates in the class were quite gloating. They all felt that Yun Shishir was actually quite pitiful. Raising a child alone, she must have been very down and out. Hence, many of the female classmates were smug and even compared themselves to Yun Shishir. Seeing how the once famous school belle was now in such a sorry state, they could not help but feel an inexplicable sense of superiority. However, that class reunion overturned everyone's understanding. Yun Shishir actually had a boyfriend? And he was the CEO of Dishing Financial Group. Gosh, that was the Mu Group that could cause the stock market to tremble with a yawn. Naturally, they did not believe it and were skeptical. However, when Wang Chuanda appeared and treated Mu Yaja so respectfully, how could it be fake? After the class reunion, the Du family quickly suffered. She heard that because Du Jiayan and Huang Lili had offended Yun Shishir and said those unbearable things at the class reunion, the Muse had suppressed the Du family so badly that they were on the brink of bankruptcy in just a few days. Only then did these people truly believe it. At the same time, they were envious, jealous, and in awe of Yun Shishir. Later, after Du Jiayan begged Yun Shishir, the next day, the Du family's projects slowly recovered. He was surprised and overjoyed, feeling extremely grateful to Yun Shishir. She really took the words he begged her to heart. However, Huang Lili's family underwent a drastic change. Huang Lili was originally from a poor family. Her hometown was a village in the city of Beijing. Father Huang used to be in the limelight. However, the Asian financial crisis happened. His business was destroyed and his factory closed down. In the end, he was heavily in debt and had no choice but to return to his hometown. Later, Huang Lili hooked up with Du Jiayan. Under the Du family's arrangement, Father Huang became the village secretary. Although it was not as glorious as before, it was still smooth sailing for him. However, recently, Father Huang was anonymously reported for abusing his position and embezzling more than 1 million yuan. Not only that, Father Huang even embezzled the government's poverty support fund. The total embezzlement amounted to several million yuan. The village in the city was a poverty-stricken county that was heavily supported by the capital. The annual support fund amounted to several million yuan. Father Huang's case was especially serious. According to the law, not only would all his assets be confiscated, he would also face a life sentence. Life sentence? Chapter 954. She did not even need to think to know who was behind this. Why did the incident suddenly come to light? Huang Lili didn't need to guess who the anonymous informant was. She already knew who it was. This time, she was thoroughly frightened. She rushed home in the middle of the night, but her father had already been taken away by the Disciplinary and Inspection Commission for investigation. Mother Huang's hair turned white overnight, and she fainted from crying several times. She suffered a stroke and was sent to the hospital. She was still in a coma and was still under observation. All of her family's assets were frozen. Huang Lili had no choice but to use the little savings she had to pay for her mother's medical expenses. Now, she was penniless. This was what it meant to be at the end of one's rope. Mother Huang still needed follow-up treatment, and the cost was high. If she was not treated in time, she would be in danger of becoming a vegetable. Huang Lili was so frightened that she did not know what to do. She called Du Jiayan for help, but he coldly rejected her. Huang Lili, you still have the cheek to call me. We've already broken up, don't call me again to bother me. Because of you, the Du family suffered so much. Isn't that enough? Huang Lili begged softly, Jiayan, on account of our friendship, can you help me this time? You still have the cheek to talk about friendship with me? Her words made Du Jiayan furious. Because of you, the Du family almost went bankrupt. What about you? What did you do? Huang Lili. You're the one who broke up with me. Since you can't bear the hardships with me, why should I help you now that you're in trouble? You reap what you sow. If it weren't for your vanity and offending someone you shouldn't have, would you end up like this? The Du family has yet to recover and can't even protect itself. You should take care of yourself. With that, he hung up the phone. When Huang Lili tried calling him again, she was told that she could not get through. She had probably been blacklisted by him. The next day, the hospital sent another reminder. The money she had saved in the hospital was not enough to cover the medical expenses, and she had already owed several bills. At her wit's end, she naturally did not dare to look for Yun Shishir personally. Thus, she sought out Jiang Li, hoping that the latter could plead for mercy from Yun Shishir on her behalf on account of the fact that they were once classmates. She hoped that the latter would be merciful and not force the Huang family into a corner. Jiang Li rejected her at first. However, Huang Lili was exhausted from crying. She even said that if this went on, she would be too ashamed to continue living if her father and her mother's. Jiang Li's heart softened, and she agreed. However, after dialing Yun Shishir's number, she to speak. Shishir, have you heard about what happened to Huang Lili? What's the matter? I heard that Huang Lili's father was reported anonymously. It was said that he was corrupt and took bribes. The amount of money he received was several million. He has been taken away for investigation. If he is convicted, I'm afraid he will be sentenced to life imprisonment. Yun Shishir muttered to herself for a moment. Jiang Li continued. Her mother couldn't take the blow and suffered a stroke. She's still in the hospital now, but the family's funds have been frozen, so they can't pay for the medical expenses. If she's not treated in time, she'll become a vegetable. How tragic. Yun Shishir laughed softly. Jiang Li, what do you mean by telling me this? Chapter 955. Yun Shishir said casually, do you also think that I'm selfless enough to forgive someone who used unscrupulous means to slander me? Jiang Li said anxiously, Shishir, don't misunderstand. That's not what I meant. I just feel that Huang Lili is pitiful. Although she's in the wrong, isn't this punishment a little too severe? Punishment? Pitiful? Yun Shishir was so angry that she laughed. Jiang Li, are you muddle-headed? If her father wasn't corrupt, why would he be reported anonymously? Jiang Li was speechless. Yun Shishir laughed again and said, if her father was just and honest, why would he be afraid that others would take advantage of him? If her father hadn't brought this upon himself, her mother wouldn't have suffered such a blow and all these things wouldn't have happened. These are all their own sins. Don't tell me you're suspecting that I sent someone to report them anonymously and made up those baseless accusations to pin the blame on them. Jiang Li was also a little angry, but she didn't dare to say anything. She only said, Sure, I'm just feeling sorry for Huang Lily. Don't be so harsh with your words. Don't hurt our friendship over such a small matter. Moreover, I didn't mean it that way. Don't overthink it. Jiang Li, people have to learn to put themselves in other people's shoes. If you have empathy and put yourself in my shoes, if you were slandered and hurt like this, would you forgive her? Jiang Li said, Of course not. Huang Lily has gone too far. That's what you said. Moreover, I didn't harm her. This is all her family's own sins. She deserves to go to jail for taking bribes. The law is strict and fair. Since she did something wrong, she should be punished, right? Yun Shishir had already made her stance clear. Jiang Li sighed and said, I'm sorry, Shishir. I may not be able to empathize with the hurt you have suffered, but I don't mean to ask you to forgive Huang Lily. I was only asked by her to plead on her behalf. Since you've made your stance clear, then this matter will end here. I won't mention it again. After that, Jiang Li apologized profusely and hung up the phone. Yun Shishir frowned. Actually, every circle had its own rules of the game. Since he wanted to survive in this circle, he had to abide by the rules of the game. If they didn't follow the rules, they would definitely be eliminated. Lin Fengtian purposely filmed all her scenes with Gu Xingze. Normally, a youth movie like this would only take Liang 3 months to film. Since Yun Shishir and Gu Xingze were in their best condition, their scenes were completed within 10 days. The production crew even held a celebratory banquet for them. Yun Shishir and Gu Xingze took a selfie and posted it on the internet, announcing that they had finished filming their scenes. The fans of the original novel were excited and looked forward to the release of the movie. Yun Shishir couldn't help but feel a little absent-minded after working on the set for more than 2 months. This was her first movie and the entire process was like a dream. She understood that the reason why she and Gu Xingze were filmed together was to take care of her. At the celebratory banquet, Lin Fengtian made a special feature of the behind-the-scenes photos and gave it to her. Chapter 956. Yun Shishir was deeply grateful for this. Being able to work with an outstanding director like Lin Fengtian in her first movie was something she did not even dare to dream of. However, something unpleasant happened during the celebratory banquet. Yun Shishir was arranged to sit at the same table as Yang Mi and Lu Jingtian. During the banquet, when Lu Jingtian stood up to make a toast, she accidentally spilled the red wine in her hand on her. This sudden attack caught her off guard. Yun Shishir's body stiffened slightly as her gaze fell on her dress. The bright red wine spilled on her dress, causing it to bloom like a flower. Lu Jingtian covered her mouth in horror. Oh, no. Shishir, I didn't do it on purpose, Yun Shishir sneered. I know you didn't do it on purpose. How could she say it out loud if she did it on purpose? Yun Shishir did not even look at her as she wiped her dress with a wet towel and sighed helplessly. This dress was ruined. It was just a dress. If it got dirty, she could just throw it away. Hence, she got up and returned to the nanny van, only to find Lu Jingtian following closely behind her. She turned around warily and squinted her eyes. Why are you following me? Yun Shishir, you seem to be very pleased with yourself. Lu Jingtian sneered. Her eyes were full of contempt and mockery. Yun Shishir raised her brows slightly and sneered. I don't know what you mean. Lu Jingtian's eyes turned sharp as she shouted, You do. After a pause, she suddenly said aggressively, Do you think that you can be so arrogant just because Brother Mu is supporting you? Do you think that he truly loves you? He's only interested in you on a whim. Once this is over, do you think you can still be as doted on as you are today? Yun Shishir impatiently interrupted her. Lu Jingtian, I'm tired of hearing such words from you. Song Enya had said such words before, too. That Missy and Lu Jingtian were close, so there was a high chance that the Missy had said something to her to disgust her. Lu Jingtian was annoyed at being interrupted, but she then sneered. You're the female lead in this movie. Once it's released, your fame will surely soar. You won't be far from becoming famous overnight. Still, I really look down on you. If not for Brother Mu, you wouldn't be where you are today. Yun Shishir blandly replied, I'm famous because of my own capabilities. Lu Jingtian sneered as if she had just heard a joke. TSK. What a nice thing to say. If Brother Mu hadn't given you so many resources, would you have become so famous? Dream on. Why? Are you that envious of me? Yun Shishir chuckled, unable to hide the teasing in her eyes. Of course. Lu Jingtian's face was contorted out of shape. How? Lu Jingtian flew into a rage out of humiliation after being exposed by her. What's there to be envious of AB*TCH who relied on the unspoken rules to get to where she is? Yun Shishir was unfazed and only said faintly, you're better than someone with mediocre acting skills and poor script skills. You can't even recite a complete line. If not for your background, Director Lin would have fired you long ago. Chapter 957. You're spouting nonsense, there's no such thing. Do you have any acting skills? It's all because you have that face that fits the role of the character in the script. Lu Jingtian did not realize how sour her words were. Yun Shishir chuckled. There's a saying, beauty and luck are also a form of strength. After a pause, she smiled sweetly. If you're capable, why don't you look prettier than me? Lu Jingtian was stunned for a moment before she gritted her teeth. Yun Shishir enjoyed the sight of her livid face and smiled. Besides, are you in a position to say that I don't have any acting skills? In terms of strength, I can't be compared to you. Lu Jingtian was exasperated. What kind of power do you have? Do you have the power to be taken advantage of? That's right. Beauty is a form of strength, so are you using your beauty to seduce Brother Mu? Yun Shishir, I think you're the reincarnation of a vixen who specializes in seducing men. Yun Shishir cast her a sidelong glance. Indeed, summer insects could not talk about ice. Some people were so jealous that they could not be reasoned with. She coldly said, even without Mu Yaja, I'll still use my strength to prove myself. Lu Jingtian hooted, if you're capable, don't rely on him. Yun Shishir could not be bothered with her as she maintained a cold face. Seeing her indifference, Lu Jingtian gritted her teeth. Suddenly, she thought of something and smiled contemptuously. Actually, I think you're quite pitiful. Yun Shishir did not want to bother with her, though, so why waste her breath on her? With this thought in mind, she turned around, only to hear her say from behind, do you know? Brother Mu will be holding a press conference soon to announce his marriage. Yun Shishir's footsteps paused. Her body stiffened slightly, but she did not turn around. She furrowed her brows slightly. Lu Jingtian took a few steps toward her from behind and spoke in a voice full of arrogance. I heard this from my dad, too. I heard that Brother Mu is holding a press conference to announce his marriage with Mu Wanru. He. In other words, he and Mu Wanru were about to get married. If he really loved you, would he marry another woman? You're just a canary that he's keeping in a cage. He'll play with you when he's happy, and when he's tired of you, it's nothing more than that. That's why I feel sorry for you. You see him as your entire world, but he only sees you as a plaything. Do you really think he cares about you that much? Lu Jingtian was also in love with Mu Yaja, but to her, Mu Yaja was undoubtedly high and mighty. She knew that Mu Yaja and her were like heaven and earth. In her heart, he was like a god. But why was Yun Shishir able to occupy his heart? Receive all of his love? What right did Yun Shishir have to have what she couldn't have? Yun Shishir was silent for a long time. Mu Yaja is going to hold a press conference to announce his marriage. Why didn't he mention this to me? She did not believe that Mu Yaja would announce his marriage with Mu Wanru at a press conference, but if he had other intentions, he should explain it to me clearly, should he not? Yun Shishir suddenly clutched the corner of her shirt as a conflicted look flashed across her eyes. You see him as your entire world, but he only sees you as a plaything. Was that so? Was that really the case? On the island in the middle of the lake, he had created a mysterious romance for her. In her impression, a man like him had never put in so much effort for anyone. Chapter 958. He had also made a vow to dote on her legitimately. Every time they were intimate, she would look at him with a doting gaze that couldn't be faked. Could it be that those were all lies? Did he do all this for her to deceive her feelings? No way, right? Words could deceive the heart. However, the emotions in his eyes couldn't be deceived no matter what. She regarded him as her whole world. He, on the other hand, used the whole world to protect her. Why should she listen to someone else's one-sided statement and doubt him, then? Yun Shusher turned around expressionlessly and sneered when she saw the smug look on the other's face. Lu Jingtian was taken aback when she saw her laughing instead of being angry. You're really thick-skinned. How can you be so cheap and still laugh shamelessly? Yun Shusher's eyes were full of contempt as she coldly said, Lu Jingtian, you're the pitiful one, aren't you? What? Do you know how Mu Yaja treats me? Do you know how he feels about me? Lu Jingtian choked hard. Yun Shusher's lips curled into a smile that she found extremely dazzling. Like is different from love. Love is unconditional trust, so I believe him. As for you, who are you? What right do you have to sow discord here? Lu Jingtian laughed in anger. Sow discord? Ha! Ha ha! You're really pitiful. It seems that you won't shed tears until you see the coffin. I'm really looking forward to the day you're abandoned. You must be in a sorry state. Alright, then. Let's wait and see, Yun Shusher said nonchalantly. Lu Jingtian's smile disappeared at her words, and she became angry out of humiliation. Yun Shusher, however, merely smiled and turned to leave. She clenched her fists tightly, feeling a nameless fire in her heart. She was so angry that she lost her rationality. She actually took a few steps forward and grabbed Yun Shusher's arm. You're not allowed to leave. Did I say you could leave? I'm not done yet. She originally wanted to humiliate her, but she ended up being humiliated instead. She was filled with grievances and had nowhere to vent them. Yun Shusher was pulled hard by her and fell to the ground. Lu Jingtian cursed coldly. She flipped over and straddled the woman before slapping her face a few times like a shrew. I'll kill you, you vixen. Born with a seductive face, she seduced men everywhere. I don't know what kind of ability you have, or what kind of charm you have. Not only is Brother Xingzi so smitten by you, even Brother Mu has fallen for your seduction. I'll beat you to death, you bitch. I'll kill you. How could Yun Shusher be willing to submit obediently? How could she be the kind to be slaughtered? Did she not know how to retaliate when Lu Jingtian hit her? Hence, she grabbed Lu Jingtian's arm with all her strength. Perhaps, she had been humiliated to the extreme, but she somehow managed to push the other away with all her strength. She stood up, and Lu Jingtian was about to pounce on her again. Yun Shusher nimbly dodged, and the latter fell to the ground, caught off guard. Yun Shusher then turned around and pinned her down, strangling her neck. Ah! How dare you strangle me? Lu Jingtian cursed. Her usual ladylike demeanor in the production team was gone, and she was like a crazy shrew. Chapter 959. Yun Shusher returned all the slaps she had received from her earlier and gave her a few hard slaps. If you like him, compete with him openly. I despise people like you the most for resorting to such despicable means. With that, Yun Shusher gave her a few more slaps without hesitation. Lu Jingtian's legs kicked wildly, but Yun Shusher suddenly choked her with a little force. Don't move. Yun Shusher threatened angrily. Lu Jingtian's face flushed red, but she still glared at her defiantly. However, when she felt a suffocating sensation on her neck, she widened her eyes in disbelief. This woman is really using all her strength to choke me? I can't breathe, Lu Jingtian's hands clutched her wrists tightly, her sharp nails leaving deep bloody marks on the back of her hands. Yun Shishir, on the other hand, did not seem to be afraid of pain or the woman's threatening gestures. Seeing that the latter was still cursing and swearing, she increased the strength in her hands. Lu Jingtian felt suffocated and could no longer utter a word. It was as if she would faint in the next second. Yun Shishir saw that her face was flushed red, as if blood was about to drip out, and loosened her grip slightly. She had only pinched her to scare her. She wanted her to know that she was not to be trifled with even if she was usually docile. Lu Jingtian, I'm warning you, I won't attack unless I'm attacked, but if someone attacks me, I won't tolerate it to the end either. With that, Yun Shishir stood up, glared at her coldly, and walked away swiftly. Lu Jingtian got up from the ground, feeling aggrieved and afraid. Tears streamed down her face and wet her clothes. Yun Shishir's gaze earlier was too scary. Now that she thought about it carefully, she was both shocked and frightened. Yun Shishir was really bold. How dare she strangle her? She had never been hit by anyone at this age. Even when she made a mistake when she was young, her parents could not bear to hit her. This Yun Shishir was the first person who dared to lay a hand on her. At the thought of this, she was overwhelmed with grievances. She originally wanted to go back to the celebration party, but now she was angered by Yun Shishir. Her dress was dirty, and she was in a sorry state. Besides, she had lost her appetite, so she went straight to the lounge, picked up her phone, and called her niece. The moment the call got through, she burst into tears. Song Enya was startled by her cries and hurriedly inquired about what had happened. The two of them were best friends from junior high school to university, and their relationship was very close. Lu Jingtian recounted what had happened to her niece with exaggerated details. She could not stop complaining. Enya, she actually hit me and even pinched me. You didn't see how overboard she was. She really pinched me hard. Song Enya consoled her for a while, only to hear the other lashing out indignantly, Enya. How could there be such a disgusting woman in this world? This woman is really disgusting. What right does she have to shout at me? She even said that we'll wait and see. I'm really looking forward to seeing her fall to rock bottom. I really want to see how down and out Brother Mu is when he abandons her. Jingtian, don't be sad. Did she really pinch you? Song Enya was still in disbelief.